Morning, Roxanne. Thank you for my brooms as always. Ruckman Gangadine, morning, Ruckman. Blessed Sunday to you as well. Michelle Robinson, morning. Gabriel Phillip, morning. Denise Bramble, Cyril Mayas, morning, sir. Aline Lewis, morning, Aline. Jackie Graham, morning. Carol Boyce John, morning to you. Alberta Sampat, morning. Rosemary Headley, Ruben Rogers. Ruben is asking, do you think they circled the wagons? Neil Francois always present, sir. Kenneth Gabriel, Shah, morning. Deborah Durante, morning. Terrence, Big Trini for Life Cummings, morning, sir. Happy Sunday to you as well. Jennifer Nicholas, morning. Patriot, morning. Leon Graves, Lynette Harris, Earl Turpin, Dexter Thwaites, morning, guys. Jennifer Ashby Okoli, morning. Freddie Williams, morning to you. Marilyn Gordon, good morning, Miss Gordon. I trust that you had a good time last night. Kennedy Joseph, morning, Macaroni Tony. Thank you so much, Roxanne. Karen Spooner, morning. Kathleen 67289, morning to you. Yes, the barber shop. Yesterday morning. Deanne Charles, morning, Deanne. Theophilus Lockheed, morning, Sir. Gemma White Isaac, morning. Christopher Siffy, morning to you. Harold Lee, morning. Deborah Durante, morning. Carol Myers, morning, Carol. Indeed, a sunny Sunday. And I think this upcoming week is supposed to be a bit rainy based on what I saw on the weather forecast a couple nights ago. Marva James, morning. Ian Michael Glowden, morning. Joycelyn Small White, morning to you. Margaret Thomas, Margaret, yeah. Pamela O'Connor, morning. Denise Reed, morning to you. Istra Blake, morning, Istra. Desh Rubin, morning, Desh. Shulan Bodhi, morning to you. Is it Lord? Morning, you, Danny. Morning to you. Patricia Comina, Anthony Joseph, Shedley Jimenez, morning. Celestine Allen, morning to you. Ria Ed, morning. Marlene Panton, Lisa Burton, Point Kumana Sharon, Pauline Buckmeyer, morning to all of you guys. Neighbor, good morning. Says blessings, I'm taking in the Memorial Parade also. Oh, very nice. That's today. Okay. Morning, Earl. Wazid, morning. Judy Collins. Yeah, I realized that, Roxanne. He really got me upset with that nonsense. Come telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. Really? Yeah. They just regurgitating talking points and about people voted based on the economy in the US and nonsense. That's just a cop out, because if anybody really studied the US economy over the last 4 years and compared to what it was when Trump left office when he lost the election in November of 2020, would see that the metrics clearly speak to a different situation. Case in point, the three main stock exchange indices, the Nasdaq, the S&P 500, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average, have skyrocketed under Joe Biden and Joe Biden's administration. And as I told Nicola yesterday, in November of 2020, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was at 29,000. So that if it is you had to buy one share in every company on the Dow Jones Industrial Average in November of 2020, it would have cost you in total just $29,300. Today, 4 years later, it's costing you $44,000. $44,000, over 50% increase in the value of that stock index. And then you have the S&P 500, which was at, I think, 3,600 in November of 2020. It's now at 5,009. And then you have the Nasdaq, which was, I think, about just over 11,000, and now it's about 19,000 or thereabouts. So persons who are on here, who are American citizens, who have 401ks would know what I'm talking about. They would have seen the significant increase in their 401k, so their retirement income looking pretty good right about now. What has led to that? Right? Trump can't boast about that. In fact, when he was leaving office in 2020, he said that the Biden administration would destroy the economy. Nothing of the sort happened. And when they're talking about inflation and people voted because of inflation, again, rubbish. What has caused the inflation in the United States? I told you all some weeks ago, you have two types of inflation, cost push and demand pull. Demand pull inflation is when the price of goods go up because of the significant increase in demand for these goods. Why has there been an increase in demand? Because you have more people employed under the Biden administration and under Trump. The Biden administration created more jobs than the Trump administration. So if you have more people earning an income, more people gainfully employed, more people with disposable income and have the capacity to demand more goods and services relative to the availability of supply, the prices will go up. Simple. So that the inflation that we're seeing right now in the US is as a result of a performing economy, perhaps performing too well. Too many people are employed. Too many people can afford to go to the grocery store, and instead of buying one carton of milk, could afford to buy 2 and 3. Instead of being able to only purchase a half dozen eggs or 1 dozen eggs, they could afford to buy 2 and 3 dozen per person, which is resulting in an increase in demand relative to supply. And therefore, when demand outstrips supply, prices go up. How difficult is that for them to understand? But you know what? They're taking talking points from the likes of people like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and these clowns. Miss me with that nonsense. Yeah, rubbish. Let me see here. What else we have? GG Wall, morning. Althea, morning to you. Phyllis Antoine, Demetri McEwen, Claudius Alexander, Stephen Martel, morning, sir. Jonathan Carr, Emmeline Harvey, Victoria Isidore, Marilyn Wanza, Cloud, Ian Andrew Nualo Lee, morning. Maxine Richards, morning. Maxine, Nadia Lewis Dixon, morning to all of you guys. Claire Carrington, Kurt Shaw. Right, so last night was Bush Lime, my first visit to Bush Lime. Over the years I've been seeing it, but this is the first time I had an opportunity really to attend, and I must say I had a very good time. It wasn't what I had expected, because I don't like to go. I usually don't go to FET and them kind of thing because I don't like the crowd and all of that. Is not my thing, and I can't stand up one spot for hours and hours. But the setting was great, the accommodation was great, the food was great. I don't drink alcohol, but there were the offerings, the alcoholic offerings were more than sufficient, right, for those who are so inclined. So whether it is you would have come with your own alcohol or whether you partook of what was part of the arrangement, yeah, I think a good time was definitely had by all, and I must say I look forward to going again next year. So now let me just get this here. Yeah, so we had our own little area, our own little tent, if you want to call it that, our own little enclave for our party. So we had Darian, Marcel, Jenny, and Eric had a good time. Mr. Chance, Mr. Yates, Brian, yeah, the whole gang was there, right? And we were treated by Mr. Marcel, and yeah, Miss Gordon was there as well. And yeah, we had a nice time. So you all missed that treat for those of you who weren't there. It was well attended. I don't know. I don't know if it's a PNM thing. I saw a lot of PNM people there, but it was good. It was really, really nice. Congratulations to the organizers of the event, and yeah. So I'm sure when I open the line for calls, those Mr. Chance and these guys would probably call in and chip in and speak to the good time that they had last night. Also, we were privileged to have had the Prime Minister visit our little enclave, and he came and he chatted with a few of us. Darian would have made introductions and so on. The Prime Minister had a very nice conversation with Mr. Yates and so on. So, and again, for those persons who like to paint the Prime Minister as being this bulldog and he's this Rottweiler, and he rough and tumble, that certainly was not what we saw last night, right? When the Prime Minister came by our area, And he stayed for a little bit and he chatted and yeah. So, but I guess, as I keep saying, you need to have that interaction with Dr. Rowley to see that the picture that some are inclined to paint of him is certainly not what it is. Right? And the persons who were there could attest to that. Also, so Ferdy Ferreira was in our little area as well. So congratulations to them on a job well done. Right. Shell, Lambert, Jennifer Dorset, Donna Seeley, morning Donna, Alison Phillips. So let me jump into it. So many things to talk about, right? What to touch on first, boy? Let me see. Right. Should I go with that first? Okay. So I bought the Express as usual on a Sunday, wasting my $5 because I wanted to see what Ralph Maraj would write on today, as Mr. Yates would have pointed out. Normally, after he come and he writes his nastiness about the Prime Minister, the following week he will go and write about something happening outside. So this week he's talking about Donald Trump and the EU and the impact of Trump's re-election on the world and the like. And probably next week he'll come back with his nastiness about Dr. Rowley again, right? So not surprised with that at all. I'm seeing Martin Daly. Okay. He too, let me see. The blight of defeat when a previous Prime Minister and political leader of the PNM, Patrick Manning, had called the election really must be a troubling concern. We will deal with that probably during the week. I didn't have time to read that. But what I wanted to touch on quickly before I proceed to other things, I saw the Integrity Commission published its list of persons in public life who have not filed their integrity declarations for the period ended, years ended December 2021, 2022, and 2023. And for the period 2023, I found it noteworthy to make mention of the fact that there are some names here. So guilty parties who, based on this, have not yet submitted their declarations to the Integrity Commission. And the purpose of these declarations is so that the Integrity Commission can review it and determine whether or not these persons have questions to answer. If the Integrity Commission needs to request further information with respect to their declarations to determine if maybe somebody might have taken a little bribe somewhere, if they realize we've seen a significant increase in their financial holdings and we need to get some more information or explanation as to how that took place, right? But what I note here, in particular, so I see almost the let me see what I have here. The Tobago House of Assembly, Trevor James, Zorisha Hackett, Megan Morrison, Ian Pollard. I'm seeing Kelvin Morris here. Who else? But what I wanted to point out, let me get here just now. The Parliament. Right. To highlight the hypocrisy of some of these people. Khadija Amin, Michelle Benjamin, Anita Haynes-Alim, Dinesh Rambali, Jayanti Lakshmidiyal. Right? You have some government ministers here too. Mr. Dominic Smith. All of those persons that I have mentioned, Dr. Carson Charles. These are persons who would have on the UNC bench in the lower and the upper house, right? Who are yet to submit their declarations for the year 2023. And the deadline date for that submission was the 31st of May, right? So they're almost 6 months late. And I know for a fact that what the Integrity Commission will do is that if you miss the deadline, they would call you. They use moral suasion, so they would give you a personal call, right, to remind you that they've not yet received your declaration, and if you could give them a commitment as to how soon they would be able to receive this declaration so that they wouldn't have to publish your name in the newspaper. So all of these persons, I imagine the Integrity Commission would have been able to get into contact with them, and they would have given a commitment of a date prior to the submission of their names here. And clearly, they did not hold true to that commitment. And I take note of the members of the UNC whose names are here, right, who are yet almost 6 months after the deadline, because you could submit from the first week in January to the 31st of May. And even beyond that, as I said, they give you a little extension. These hypocrites who are yet to submit their declarations for 2023, right? So the Integrity Commission has no record of them submitting their declarations outlining how much money they made last year, their assets and the like. But last year, they all up in Dr. Rowley business, right? All over the place on Dr. Rowley business, talking about, oh, Dr. Rowley, they called in an Integrity Commission to launch an investigation into Dr. Rowley because he didn't declare his apartment in Inez Gate on Form B. Despite the fact that it was declared on Form A, you would have seen that Dr. Rowley would have taken pictures of his declaration and he would have published it on social media for all and sundry to see all his business, all the property he owns, where he owns it, and the like. Right, with respect to the property, he didn't put his bank account on that section because you all don't need to know how much money the man has. But with respect to his real estate holdings, he would have published all of that for everybody to see. Look, Form A, it is there. So this claim that are trying to hide it or trying to engage in some level of subterfuge is rubbish, because it is there on Form A, which is also submitted to the Integrity Commission, so they can see that I have this property. But Dr. Rowley's name is not on this list here, right? But whose name is there? Khadija Amin, Michelle Benjamin, Jayanti Lakshmidiyal, attorney at law. She was on maternity leave the other day, so she had plenty time on her hands when the baby sleeping to fill out the form, right? Or ask Mr. Ramdial, her husband, to look at you after the baby for a little bit while it is you fill out the form and submit it. But total disregard for the law and the deadline date to submit. But all it was all up in Dr. Rowley business. Oh, he didn't include. But you have submitted absolutely nothing. Nothing. So that your name is now today in the newspapers as being errant. Right? And your duty as a member of parliament to submit your declaration to the Integrity Commission. And as I said, I'm certain they would have called and reminded, and a commitment would have been given, and it still has not been met. But this is to tell you how they're so hypocritical, right? They know to go and dig up in the Integrity Commission to get Dr. Rowley business and other people business to come and highlight it for the public to see. But where is yours? Where is yours? Dr. Rowley could go to the Integrity Commission and dig up and get your Form B, Jayanti, or Khadija Amin, to see what it is that you all filed. Could he go and do that? No, he can't, because you know what? It has not been filed. That's why the name's in the newspapers today. Name and shame. What are you going to say? But anyway, just thought I'd make mention of that. All up in Dr. Rowley Capex. You man business. But we can't see what it is because you all in contravention of the law yet to submit. Let's see. So 2024, in November 2024 is coming up. The due date for that is coming up just now in January. Let's see if they're going to find themselves with 2 years in problems. So I need to touch quickly on this issue of this Forex thing, because I mean, all of a sudden it blew up. And before I go there, quickly, Kamala slams judiciary hypocrisy. She backs cops keeping firearms while in court. So again, you know, the mistress of the mask, no, let me keep it clean, right? Always looking for opportunities to try and see if she could curry favor with somebody to be able to get votes. So now she's siding with the Police Social Welfare Association, who are, so it says here, opposition leader Kamala Prasad Bisesa is in support of the position of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Social and Welfare Association that police officers should be allowed to keep their firearms on them while in court. And over the past few days, there have been differing views on whether officers should be allowed into court buildings with their firearms. On one hand, Association President Inspector Gideon Dixon has been vocal against a judicial policy that has been in existence since 2015 that does not allow police officers in court spaces with their firearms. So this, based on what this is saying here, is that this policy has been in place since she was Prime Minister. Since she was Prime Minister, it's been in place, you know. Did she record her discontent with that policy when she was Prime Minister? But now, today, I have a problem with it. But you didn't have a problem with it 2015, 9 years ago, when you were Prime Minister. The hypocrisy. And of course, her boy Gary Griffith wasted no time in calling her out on that hypocrisy. The same page. Instead of making emotional comments with the hope of receiving votes, opposition leader Kamala Prasad Bisesa should first do some research and back up her statements with data, former Police Commissioner Gary Griffith said yesterday. He did so in response to Prasad Bisesa's suggestion that police officers ought to be allowed into court buildings with their firearms. One of her justifications for doing so was because, as far as she is aware, judicial officers and members of the special branch who are protecting them are allowed to do so, Prasad Bisesa stated. This is typical of the opposition leader. She has made a comment, and usually the comment she makes is hoping she gets votes. She has made this statement without any type of data or evidence that can verify whether what she's saying is true. This is Gary talking here. Her reason to justify police officers going in contrast to the rules of the court is based on her perception of what she heard. We cannot be making decisions as politicians based on rum shop talk, said Griffith in response. He said even if it were true that judicial officers were allowed to keep their personal firearms on them while in court, instead of calling for police officers to do so as well, Prasad Bisesa should be advocating for those judicial officers to also be banned. What she is stating is that two wrongs will make a right, because when it comes to international best practice, there is a reason why firearms are not allowed in the courtrooms, to avoid intimidation and to avoid incidents and so forth. If it is what she is stating is true, that judges and magistrates have firearms, then she should be saying that they also should not have it. He said Prasad Bisesa, to be a senior counsel and political leader who is aspiring to again be prime minister, he expected she would have advocated for everyone to adhere to the mandate of law. If it is that the court has full authorization to the Chief Justice that persons are not allowed to carry firearms in the courts, that remains. It is again very unfortunate for a political leader who wants to be a prime minister to say it is okay for police officers to enter a courtroom in a domestic violence case with his wife and has a right to carry a firearm. She's saying it is okay for a police officer who is being cross-examined by a defense attorney to have a firearm in his possession. That says a lot about her, and I am not here to be involved in any catfight with Kamala Prasad Bisesa. I am here to deal with the law and regulations, stated Griffith. So Gary Griffith calling her out on her hypocrisy, always looking for votes everywhere, here, there, and everywhere. She already have the OWTU in her pocket, the NUGFW in her pocket, SWWTU in her pocket, and she's looking now to get the police union in her pocket too. Desperately looking for votes all over the place, begging like, all over the place, like Mr. Wadgat. Straight. Votes. Pathetic. Who supported now listening has all their business. Anyway. Right. So let me touch now on this this Forex thing, right? Because I saw Derwin Howell, who is a former executive director of Republic Bank, posted a letter in today's Express speaking to that issue. And everybody now is coming out to talk about this foreign exchange. And the unfortunate thing is that the focus is being placed on the supply side and not so much on the demand side. Because while we can acknowledge that there has been a decline in supply, there has also been a significant increase in demand for Forex, but nobody is examining what is causing this increase in demand. So Mr. Howell, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just touch on a few parts. He says the local foreign exchange situation has been an ongoing topic of discussion. And given the reduced supply of foreign exchange available to the banks, they have had to make decisions on how this diminished supply is sold to their customers. And this has led to various limits on foreign credit card usage and Forex sales to customers. And none of this has been popular, but given the circumstances, it has been unavoidable. How did we reach this point? Simply, there's insufficient Forex supply to meet demand. So again, Mr. Howell is focusing on supply side. Our foreign exchange earnings have fallen due to declining commodity prices, local production, and reduced export activity. I beg to differ on that, but okay. We're producing less foreign exchange, earning goods, and hydrocarbon exports are receiving lower prices. And despite a possible decline in demand, it has fallen as fast as supply, creating the challenge. I don't know where that decline in demand, where he get that from. Given this problem, three simplified theoretical solutions exist. One, economic theory suggests that as demand exceeds supply, the item's price increases, leading to an exchange rate increase. Increased foreign exchange supply through higher commodity prices, increased production, and expanded exports. So in other words, if the price of oil and gas goes up, notwithstanding the fall in the supply of oil and gas, or the production of oil and gas in the country, we expect to earn more foreign exchange. Three, reduce foreign exchange demand to reduce imports and import substitution. Now, that's not going to happen. Unfortunately, our reality is different from theory, and here are some relevant points. One, the authorities don't want to change the exchange rate, which is true. Comminbert would have indicated early on in his tenure as minister, in fact, even before he became minister, he indicated that should the PNM come into power in 2015, that they would have sought to treat with the foreign exchange issue, which was an issue at that time, contrary to what members of the UNCR say, that this problem only started under the PNM. Absolute rubbish. Because I would have read for you all a few days ago a press release that was put out by the Chamber of Commerce in 2014, where they were complaining about the shortage of foreign exchange, how acute the problem was, and despite efforts to treat the problem, that it still had not been solved. And they wanted to sit down with the central bank governor and the finance minister and so on at the time to try and see if they could come to some solution to treat with the shortage of foreign exchange since 2014. And there's another article that I came across which shows that the problem was persistently acute since 2012. But we will pretend as if this is something that just happened. So he says, the third one, right, we can control commodity prices. Right, so I was making the point that Mr. Imbert had indicated that should the PNM come into office, they would be prepared to allow the foreign exchange rate to slide to about $6.80 TT for one US. And then they would step in and defend that exchange rate using the country's foreign reserves. So they would provide supply to prop up what was available in the public space to keep the exchange rate at where it is right now, which is about between 677 and 679. But if the government were to do what the UNC is saying they will do if they come back into power next year, which is that they will abandon the managed float and they will not be using the country's foreign reserves to provide supply to the banking sector, because their focus is going to be on building the country's foreign reserves. And so wherever the public sector, wherever the banking system gets the US from, if the energy companies come and they decide to sell US, you have to make do with that. And if you can't make do and you can't find supply, well then the exchange rate is going to go up. So we would move from 679 TT to one US to about $9, $10. And I can guarantee you that if that happens, all of a sudden you're going to see a flood of US dollars coming into the system. Because all these people who are hoarding and waiting for a devaluation so that they could come and bring in this US dollars now and make significant profits, they're just waiting. Because when I keep hearing about the black market and people are forced to go and purchase US on the black market, where is the black market getting the US from? Where are they getting it from? In quantities that can satisfy the demand of some of these people who are purchasing in significant quantities. Where, unless it's drug money, and how it's coming into the country. Otherwise, that it has to be that the black market is getting the foreign exchange on the through legal sources, and just hoarding it there and waiting for people to come who are desperate, who don't have the links that these black market operators have in the legal system to be able to get it, and then they're selling it at higher prices at $8 and change. But we're not addressing that part, right? Okay. I continue. 3, demand for imported goods remains unabated and world trade rules do not allow the imposition of banning of imports or prohibitive tariffs. Prohibitive tariffs. Interesting that Mr. Howell should make mention of that too. As Mr. Trump says, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariffs. So we are faced with rationing the limited available foreign exchange with the resultant inconveniences. Unless the structural Forex challenges are addressed, solutions will be temporary band-aids facing similar criticism. The local commercial banks conduct the majority of foreign exchange transactions and operate under a foreign exchange management process dictated by the central bank, which includes 1, periodic fixed-rate foreign exchange allocations provided by the central bank, 2, selling foreign exchange to the public at a specified spread, 3, a prohibition from purchasing foreign exchange above a specified rate, 4, daily reporting of Forex transactions to the central bank. And outside of the allocation provided by the central bank, commercial banks also purchase foreign exchange from customers who have foreign exchange to sell. These purchases must be done in accordance with the pricing regulations set by the CBTT. And banks operate with what is commonly referred to as the Forex trading book. So I do really, right. Local banks invest in foreign currency denominated financial instruments and foreign entity operations as part of their regular business. Foreign exchange used for the foreign currency denominated financial instrument investments is a combination of foreign exchange deposits held for customers and the bank's own foreign exchange assets. And the return on these investments add to the bank's foreign currency assets and enable them to pay interest on foreign currency deposits where applicable. Acquisitions of foreign entities are made using a combination of the bank's own foreign currency and the proceeds of foreign currency loans, which are paid using foreign currency flows from investments and foreign operations. None of these investments involve foreign currency purchase from the CBTT or local customers, so they do not affect the local Forex situation. Okay, if you say so, Mr. Howell. But then again, he was an executive director of the bank, so maybe he knows what he's saying. It's easy to say. But to make the point, right, and I wanted to touch on the demand side. What these banks are doing now that we see that they're reducing their credit card limits, so the US side, right, they access the US on a particular cycle. And 3 of the major banks have done that: RBC, Republic Bank, Scotia. Not so much First Citizens, thank goodness, and that's my bankers. But anyway, I make the point that what the banks are now currently doing is trying to rein in the monster that they created, right? Banks have become very, very liberal when it comes to the issuance of credit cards. So the stringent policies that they would have employed years ago, where your credit had to be in really good standing and they look at your debt service ratio and stuff to be able to get a credit card. It seems that the banks have now relaxed that. So every Tom, Dick, Harry, Jenny, and Jean and the dog have a credit card, right? And these credit cards carry TT limits and US limits. In fact, what the banks are now doing is even increasing people's limits, your TT dollar limits, which is also a function of your US limit, without even telling you. So in some cases, you don't even have to apply for an increase in your credit card limit, which you used to obtain before. You go into your credit card statement and all of a sudden you see your TT limit increase by 5,000, 10,000. And it's like, how did that happen? How did that happen? When did that happen? You just see it. They just do it. They don't even inform you that they increased their limit. And the problem with that is now they're enticing people to go and spend more. I can tell you from my days in the bank, right, as a banker, people coming in to pay their credit card on a monthly basis or whatever as the case may be. And you would be amazed at the number of citizens whose credit cards are at the limit. They max out their credit cards and the only thing they pay in is the minimum payment so that they don't get a call from the bank or a letter from the bank telling them that the credit card is in arrears. And this minimum payment as a percentage of the overall balance is very small. It's manageable. You might be owing $20-something thousand on your credit card, and the minimum payment for the month might be about $400 and something. And the person will come in and they will pay $1,000 on the credit card, declare the minimum balance and a little extra, and within days they end up using out that money again. So the credit card is almost at the limit or always maxed out. And the banks realize that this revolving line of credit is very attractive to people, because as opposed to taking a loan, where you take a loan, the bank deposits the money to your account. When you spend that money, that's the end of that money. But you have to pay back this loan every month until the loan is paid off and you don't have access to what you pay. As opposed to the credit card, which is a revolving line of credit. So if the bank gives you a limit of $20,000 and you spend out that $20,000 and then you pay it back, you still have a fresh $20,000 now to spend again. Revolving line of credit. So you always have access to what you pay back, and that seems to be more attractive for people as opposed to the loan where when you pay it off, if you need another one, you have to go back in and go through the whole process to get job letter and pay slip and then go through the interview and wait for them to do an assessment and all of this thing. When you could just get the credit card, pay it, and you're good to go. And the banks have been making a lot of money, especially off of those persons who are maxing out their credit cards and only paying the minimum payment. And I am certain, even though it's been quite a few years since I left the bank, that the same situation still exists, right? Because I have a lot of people who are living off of credit on these credit cards, unfortunately. And that has contributed to the increase in the demand for foreign exchange. Now with the explosion of online, all of these different online merchants that didn't exist between 2010 to 2015. I don't think between 2010 and 2015 you had Sheen or Shine or whatever they call it. Why do you think you've seen an increase or proliferation in all of these courier companies in Trinidad and Tobago, like WebSource and who else? Because there is a market for it. Because people are buying, shopping online with gear abandon, even with the 7% increase in the 7% online tax that they were complaining about, that Mr. Imbert would have imposed to try and restrain online purchases. People don't care. They pay in the online 7%. You know why? Because they're saying, even with the 7% online tax, when you look at what you're paying in terms of the cost of the items online, as opposed to if you have to buy it in Trinidad, you're still coming out better. It's still cheaper. So everybody going online. But when you use your credit card online, these remittances have to be made in US dollars and the banks have to find the US dollars to pay it. But people they don't care about that, you know. I have a credit card, I go in online and I buy in stuff. That's the bank business. Let them find the money to pay the US dollars to pay. I couldn't care less. And people shopping. Now you have a situation where, for instance, more people traveling. Once upon a time, to go abroad, you needed to go to a travel agency to be able to book a flight abroad and to make your arrangements for your overseas trip. Now, pull up your phone, Priceline, Expedia, Travelocity, all these different online travel agencies, right? You could book your flight, your everything, your hotel and stuff on your phone within minutes. You don't have to go to any travel agency. And now Caribbean Airlines has opened up the world to people. So whereas before, if you needed to go to places like Martinique and BVI and Turks and Caicos, all of these new destinations that Caribbean Airlines has opened up where you could go directly to these places. Before, you needed to transit through a US port, whether it be Miami or New York or whatever it is, to be able to go. So if you didn't have a visa, a US visa, you couldn't transit through the US. Now you have direct flights to these places, so you don't need to have a visa. So you know what? More people who wanted to go to these places, so they fed up go to Miami or who fed up go to whatever places, Jamaica or wherever it is they normally go, they want to now take advantage of these new destinations. So again, you need foreign exchange to pay for these things. Once upon a time, if you're going abroad and you don't have family abroad to stay by, where you're staying in a hotel. Hotels tend to be pretty expensive depending on what time of the year you're traveling. Now you have the explosion of Airbnb, where as opposed to a hotel room, one room, where you might be paying 100 and something or 200 and something US dollars per night, and 3-4 people have to stay in this small room. Now you're getting a whole house or an apartment with 2 and 3 bedrooms for around the same rate, and you're more comfortable. So people are more inclined to do these things. And so they're traveling a round trip to Miami, depending on time of year, usually around the first 6 months of the year. Might cost you about, if you're going economy, between 290 something US to maybe 380 US. So people say, that's small money. Because guess what? The government increased your personal allowance from 60,000 to 90,000. So that tax savings, people using that to travel. Every time I go to the airport, when I'm flying out, I am always amazed at the long lines. Like, where are these people going? These people have jobs? I saw a guy posted up on Facebook a few days ago that he went to the airport to drop off a family member a couple of days after Diwali. And he took a picture of the long line and he asking, is it that everybody flying out to take a break or a breather after Diwali? He wants to know what is going on. Miami Carnival just the other day, people flying out. Puerto Rico, all of a sudden everybody going to Puerto Rico. But I thought we suffering. I thought we have no money and we eating grass. Where we get any money from to pay for these things? And it has to be paid for in US dollars. Right? So Amazon, everybody paying for ordering stuff on Amazon and bringing it in. US dollars it has to be paid for. All of these different streaming sites, Amazon Prime, and you have Netflix and what is what's the other Disney Plus and all of these different things, Apple TV and all of that, all of these different subscriptions that everybody into. It's US dollars that you need to be able to pay for it. So we have to look at the demand side. And so what the banks have now found themselves in a situation is that they're giving out all these credit cards with these liberal US dollar limits. And now they've created monsters and they have to rein them in because they realize people are sitting down at home and making purchases, significant US dollar purchases on their credit card that the banks simply cannot sustain. I have a friend of mine who recently got a credit card. He had one before, a few years ago, right? And the card, he was owing some money on the card, and it was the debt was sent to what is by Knowles. And so he's still in the process of paying that off. And you would think that that would have impacted his ability to get another credit card, right? Because basically a credit bad. I tell you, applied for a credit card the other day and get through with a 4,000 US dollar limit. So when I tell you that the banks have become more liberal in granting credit cards to everybody and they do, once your salary is of a certain amount, they're giving you a credit card. So you could shop till you drop and you have access to it. And we're not talking about that. Now, from the supply side, Yes, the energy companies, which is where we get the majority of our US dollars from, because we have a drop in the production of oil and natural gas, they're selling less oil, less gas, and therefore they're earning less income, and less royalties and less taxes are being paid in US dollars. That's the main way that we get the US. Outside of that, you have remittances, persons who live abroad who send in US to their family members, tourism, when the tourists come in and they go to the banks and they change their hard currency, US dollars to TT dollars. We have the manufacturing sector who, when they sell their exports, earn money in US dollars. But a lot of them are not banking their US dollars here. Because if they bring their US dollars here and put it in the bank, even though they have money in the bank, when they go to the bank to get that US, the bank is telling them, well, you can't get it, or you have to join a queue, which could be 3 to 4 weeks or even longer. Because when you bring your money to the bank and put it in your account, the bank not taking this money and put it in a safety deposit box, waiting for when you're ready to come for it to go and take it out and give it to you. As soon as you deposit that money, somebody was waiting to get US, the bank gives it to them. So that gone. So you just have a notional balance on your account, but it is not really there. The bank knows they have a note that they owe you, or they have this amount of money for you, but they can't access it right now because they gave it to somebody else. So they have to wait until somebody else comes in now with US, at least to cover what you want, to give you their money, and so the cycle continues. How do we fix that? We add a tree to demand. So the banks are now putting a damper on demand. So they cut the US limit for their customers. RBC has taken it to the extreme. They've reduced their limit by 73% over the last couple of years or so. Right, down to what it is now, 2,000 US or something, so per cycle or whatever, which is ridiculous. Other banks have followed suit. Scotia Bank, Republic Bank. As I said, not so much FCB, but please don't go and rush FCB to take credit card and stuff now. Make things bad for those of us who with FCB, right? But sometimes you have to find creative ways around it. So as I told you all, it's not that hard to open an account in the US. If you have a visa and you could go to the United States, you travel to the United States, you can open an account. All you need, well, I could only speak for Bank of America, but I understand it's very easy for what they call suitcase customers, people who are living out of your suitcase. So you travel to the US and all your clothes basically in a suitcase. It's not on a hanger in a closet, right? So you're living out of your suitcase. And some banks have come down on that. So to open an account, you need a US address on your passport. Unlike in Trinidad here, where you need 2 forms of ID, utility bill, job letter, payslip, right? And if it is that and it's only a matter of time before it reaches to, as I said before, 2 pints of blood, a kidney, and your firstborn to be able to open a bank account here, right? And it impacts, of course, the ease of doing business. But in Bank of America, some branches, I know they would have changed their policy a little bit, and they're a little more restrictive when it comes to suitcase customers, right? If you need a US address on your passport, but they want to see now evidence of this US address. So when I would have opened my account back in 2016, they didn't need documentary evidence of my US address. I just had to tell them the address, show them a passport, they take a copy of it or whatever as the case may be, and they open the account, right? But what I do when I go abroad, I just take US off of my TT card because my bank allows me to make a withdrawal of a certain amount every 8 days. I take the full amount. In US, I go to the Bank of America ATM, I put my credit card in, take out the amount, and then I put my Bank of America card, deposit the money to my account. Simple as that. I usually try to stay at least 8 days, which allows me to make at least 2 withdrawals. And I put the money on my US account. Over time, you build credit, and Bank of America is more than happy to give you credit cards, multiple. They're doing the same thing, but you have to be responsible with how you manage your card. So I have my two credit cards, and the best thing about it is with Bank of America, you could just increase your limit by yourself online. You pull up your online banking app, right, and they have a link that says increase credit, request credit card limit increase. You click on that, put in your information, your name, whatever it is, occupation, what is your average annual salary? They ask you whether or not it is you have any mortgage payments. You put in whatever it is that your expenses, and then you put in the amount that you want to increase your limit by. Click submit, and within 1 minute or less, approved. Approved immediately. You sign out and then you sign back in and you see your new limiters, they already added on. So immediately you have access. Now I have the cards, I don't really use them because of course it defeats the purpose of me trying to save on my US account if it is that I have to pay back the credit card in US dollars. So it doesn't make sense of putting money on my savings account and then use the card and then take the money back off the card of my account to pay the. So I try to manage it. How I spend, right. So these are some of the creative things that people need to look at. But the issue has to be the issue of demand. They keep talking about this the food import bill. And that because it's over 7 billion TT dollars a year, the food import bill, and we could reduce that through agriculture. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. And I encourage anybody listening here, go to the nearest grocery, whether it's Massy, Extra Foods, whoever, and walk around the grocery, the food section, and see what it is we are importing, right? I bet you're going to see a lot of bundled offers. Buy one, get one free close to expiry date. They are importing stuff that nobody is buying. And it's staying on the shelf until the expiry date. And so they're trying to see how much money they could make back before they have to dump these things because it reached the expiry date. And so they're bundling it and buy one, get one free. And for some people, for some reason, some people are attracted to these things, right? And they buy it. So even if the grocery store has to make a loss, it's better to make some money than none at all. But some of the ridiculous things that I am seeing, they importing that nobody buying. Go in the meat section, walk down to where it is that you see they have things like imported beef and steak and pork. Some of these things are you're seeing frostbite. The meat no longer red, it's white. That's to tell you how long it has been there and nobody buying it. But they continue to import it. When you're seeing baby back ribs and chicken nuggets and all these things, it just stuck up there, nobody buying it. Nobody buying it. The people who would be using that in large amounts are not going to Massy stores and Extra Foods and Food Basket and whoever else, Passad, the Food King and so on to buy these things. They would buy it directly from the importer and they're paying less. Recently, St. Mary's College had a post-budget seminar. And they had several panelists, which included Mariano Brown, the Minister of Trade and Industry, Dr. Marlene Natz, Indira Sajiwan Ali, Monty Pemberton, a few others. And I was amazed to hear the Minister of Trade say that in respect to the food import bill, that we spend over $400 million a year importing fries. Yes, fries. Crinkle cut fries. You know the fries you're buying in KFC? Every fast food business in Trinidad and Tobago has on their menu fries as a side. Over $400 million a year we're spending to import fries. Right? We can't find better use for that foreign exchange. It just goes to show we buying that amount of fries because people want it. And then we complain about the state of the health sector. It's because we eating all that fries, over $400 million a year in fries we importing. KFC, Popeyes, Royal Castle. And these are just some of the main ones. We're not talking about the wayside fast food outlets that we go to. Even some of the more higher end restaurants as well, offering fries and wedges and all of these different things as part of their menu. Over $400 million on just one item, fries alone. When you go to the higher end restaurants that's selling all kind of steak and filet mignon and all of these different things, how much money are they spending to import these things? But we're not talking about that, but agriculture. And agriculture could bring down the food import bill. Half the time when you go to the groceries, the imported vegetables cheaper than the local produce. So obviously people will gravitate towards that. And once there is that demand for it, these entities will continue to import the foreign produce because they're cheaper. You go to the market on a Sunday morning and you see people, they're selling some real wilted looking lettuce for $15. These things have a shelf life. When the market closes on Sunday, some markets, they're not open again until maybe the next weekend. So you know they have to dump that because that lettuce is not going to stay for another week. But rather than sell it for a reduced price at $10 or whatever, they insist on $15. So people passing it straight. They're looking for bargains, and if I can't get it, you'll probably go to the grocery and you will get it at a cheaper price. And the one in the grocery, or when you're going to Price Mart importing it. People prefer to buy it. When I go to PriceMart, again, we're talking about the state of the foreign exchange. When I go to PriceMart and I am seeing people buying big screen TV, 65-inch television, 85-inch televisions. And I keep saying, I am not aware that PriceMart offers higher purchase. People are just swiping their cards, their credit card, and paying for these things, right? But remittances have to be sent back to the United States. So PriceMart, so long as there is demand for it, you have to pay. So all these things, all of us who love to go online, and for the last couple of weeks, every time I go to PriceMart, whether it's in Port of Spain or Mausica, long lines, full trolleys. And most of what PriceMart sells is imported. So that is also putting a pressure on foreign exchange. But again, when it is that the banks are very liberal with giving credit cards to everybody, no problem if it is you qualify for your credit card, well, okay, great. But persons are not exercising restraint in how they spend their money. I will spend it, I'll max out the card, and I'll just pay the minimum payment until I get my bonus for Christmas or whatever it is, or I'll take a loan and pay it off. People go into island finance and taking loan to pay off their credit card, so you're trading one debt for the next, as if that making any sense. And that's why I was talking to John yesterday about the issue of financial literacy, and there is an absolute need for a financial literacy program in Trinidad and Tobago, because some people just, I don't know, spending money while, but we're suffering. Things hard. Come on now, man. So this problem with the Forex, now we are dependent on looking forward to 2027, which for all intents and purposes is right around the corner. Now, there might be a spoke in our wheel, at least with the Dragon gas anyway. The Manatee we don't have to be concerned about because that's our gas, right? So that project will go through regardless of what Mr. Trump's policies are. The Dragon gas, on the other hand, which is Venezuela's gas, and is dependent on the OFAC license that we would have gotten from the Biden administration. Now that the Biden administration will no longer be there, it's left to be seen what Mr. Trump's policies will be with respect to Venezuela, right? Is he going to soften his stance, or is it that he's going to? But then again, if he carries out his mass deportation policy, where you're going to see a lot of Venezuelans being sent back to Venezuela, I don't think Mr. Maduro is going to be too pleased with that, right? Even though Mr. Maduro seems set to serve another 6-year term, just as he did in 2018, with all of the furor and the hullabaloo and the uproar and so on. And then that just died down, and he was sworn in, and he served his 6-year term, and so there's another one coming up. So that is the one variable that we were depending on. We needed Kamala Harris to win, because that administration was a little more friendly. It means, therefore, that Minister Young, now wants to start the entire process all over again, right? To go and court the US, whether or not the policymakers in the US post January 20th will be as accommodating as those under the current administration. Again, that is left to be seen. And so, as I was telling the caller yesterday on the barbershop, this perception that people are being alarmist, unnecessarily alarmist with respect to Mr. Trump. We could hope that maybe he would be so focused on other things that Venezuela would be at the back of his mind. But I made the point yesterday, and I continue to make the point. It depends on who Mr. Trump's advisors are. And if you have any advisors who are, what's the term I'm looking for, who are opposed to Venezuela, or who have Venezuela in their sights, then that is a problem. So I suppose Mr. Young right now is probably standing before the drawing board trying to figure out, because it means all of the progress that we have made over the last couple of years with respect to the current administration, you just had to scuttle that and new plan. So we proceed with Manatee. Mr. Young did indicate that the government continues to have negotiations with the Venezuelan authorities for the Loran field, because it's the Loran Manatee field. The Loran side is Venezuela, which has about 7.3 trillion cubic feet of gas. Manatee has 2.7. So obviously, we want Loran and we want Manatee, right? Trinidad and Tobago's proven reserves of natural gas is about 11.5 trillion cubic feet. And you realize Loran Manatee alone is almost the equivalent of what is our proven 11.5. So when we add Loran Manatee, Dragon, Coquina Mannequin, Ginger, Calypso, and all of those, you realize what we stand to gain in 2027, right? So significant inflows of foreign exchange. The one good thing I can say about Mr. Trump's election is that Mr. Trump is anti-clean energy, right? So whereas the Biden administration would have established a mandate that says sometime between 2040 or so that all vehicles in the US must be electric, Trump is opposed to that. He is vehemently opposed to that. His philosophy, his policy is drill, baby, drill. So he is all for internal combustion engine. So he is about fuel, right? Oil, gas. That is so. For us, that's a good thing because it means that the global, well, at least demand from the US and so on for oil and gas. The problem is climate change is impacting on colder temperatures in the US. So it's more hot or more warm than it is cold. And if they have more warm temperatures during the year than cold temperatures, it means that their need for natural gas for heating purposes is diminished, which doesn't over well for us. And since Trump plans to ramp up America's energy independence, which means that they're going to be relying less and less on foreign oil, foreign gas, it means we need to find other markets. We've been doing that, as Minister Young would have indicated. More of our natural gas has really been going to European markets, Asian markets, where we are fetching a much better price for our energy products as opposed to the North American market, right? So the prices that you see them showing on the news in the night, we are getting higher prices than that. And this arrangement with Venezuela would do us very well, especially if we could use our influence to sell that gas to the European market and the Asian markets where we're getting much higher prices. But can we afford 4 years of holding off on the Dragon? Manatee might be able to provide backfill for the shortages that we have now, but we desperately need. And then there are other fields where the Dragon gas field is. There's another 3 other fields in that area that is called the Mariscal Sucre area. So you have 3 other big fields, which I am certain, if it is that we would be able to get those fields, or Venezuela decides that they want to open up those fields to for exploitation. Trinidad and Tobago, of course, would be at the front of the line to get that because the infrastructure would already be in the area. Anybody else now would have to come in and put in the time it would take them to put in new infrastructure and all that. That's going to take up time, and that Venezuela doesn't really have because they need the money. All of that now is in jeopardy. So we wait to see how that is going to play out, whether or not Mr. Young is going to have to make new trips, whether or not he's going to have to do shuttle work, as Dr. Rowley said, back and forth between Washington and Trinidad and Tobago and Caracas now again to reestablish what he has already done. So our Forex is dependent on that. We need the Dragon gas. Now the UNC is probably very happy with the outcome of the US election, as I said before, because if it is Mr. Trump decides that he's going to double down and triple down on Venezuela, and therefore it impacts our ability to carry on with the Dragon gas and the other Loran and so on that we're working on. You can see if they get into office next year, they could say, well, don't blame us, you know. The Dragon gas was scuttled. It's not because we cussed out Maduro. It's not because we were all over the place between 2020 to 2025 saying the worst of things about Maduro and accusing him of being part of a corrupt cock-up at Rowley and Naveen Jindal and all of that. It's not because of that, you know. You see, it's because Trump. So blame Trump, don't blame us. We were prepared to come and work with Mr. Maduro, but, you know, there's nothing to work with because Mr. Trump imposed sanctions and therefore we cannot engage. So they would be only too happy. That's why Kevin Ramnarine posting all that rubbish that he's posting on his Facebook page. Right? So again, they do not have this country's best interest at heart. But they would love, nonetheless, to have gotten through with the Dragon gas should they come back into office because that's real money to thief. Real money to thief. And I keep telling you all of these promises that they're making should they come back into office in 2025, right? They're not telling you how they're going to fund these promises. Remember the last go-round, baby grant, they had set aside $120 million for baby grant. When they left office, only 20 million of that 100 million and 120 million had been used, right? And probably because of the short period of time, they didn't really get around to teething much of it. But this time around, where are they getting the revenue from? Especially since the leader of that party continues to talk about she's going and cut taxes for the business community. She's cutting the taxes in half, corporate taxes from 35 and 30% down to 18%. And she's going to reduce income tax. And she's going to remove the property tax. No new taxes. Where the revenue coming from? Does she have a magic wand under her bed that she's going to wave when she comes into, if she comes into office, and all of a sudden we're going to find new oil and new gas in significant quantities like in Guyana? All of a sudden we'll wake up one morning to hear BP found 48 million barrels like they told us back in 2014. You remember when they had that press conference and they come with the vial and tell us, sweet crude, I could drink it. 48 million barrels of soldado. And just like that, vanished. That was the last we heard about that. Where those 48 million barrels of sweet crude went? We're still waiting. Just like people are waiting for the $3,000 pension that they promised. And can't deliver on that. Just like the fixed date for election that they promised. Never happened. Just like the term limits for prime minister that they promised. Never happened. Just like the recall legislation, if your MP playing up in the monthly salary, you sign a petition, you get a certain amount of names, a certain percentage of the constituents, and you can recall your MP. Just as we're still waiting on that. You're still waiting on the 48 million barrels of sweet crude. But the supporters all over the place talking rubbish about how Petrotrin was doing so well. And I see the TPP Blue Devils now jump on the bandwagon and reposting foolishness from Kick Out the PNM Facebook page and regurgitating talking points from that bald-headed lout that is Anil Roberts. This foolishness about the reason why we have a Forex shortage is because they shut down the refinery. Utter rubbish. I keep saying we were importing 100,000 plus barrels of oil per day. How were we paying for those barrels of oil? With what? What were we paying for it with? Cucumbers? Melangen? Pesos? We were paying for 100,000 barrels of oil per day with US dollars. Scarce US dollars. We simply made a change now, and instead of importing oil, we're importing refined fuel. So we replace one imported product with another. Same thing. How was the refinery earning foreign exchange? They want to tell you that Petrotrin was this net earner of foreign exchange that was making so much. How was Petrotrin doing that? You import 100,000 barrels of oil per day. You refine the oil into refined fuels. How were you making the US? How are you earning the US? By selling the refined fuels to the Caribbean, certain other Caribbean countries, and a part of the refined products they were selling to the North American market. And when more was water more than flour, and all of this is in the Oil and Gas Journal interview that Khalid Hassan Ali did with them, who was at the time the president of Petrotrin. They reduced the amount of refined products that they were selling to the North American market and chose instead they wanted to focus on the Caribbean area. So that is how they were making foreign exchange. The refinery, when you sell the refined product to countries like Barbados and at the time, possibly Guyana and Dominica and so on, they were paying for this refined fuel in US dollars. The same thing is happening now. Paria is importing the fuel and they're selling it to the same Caribbean countries that Petrotrin was selling it to. That hasn't changed. So we're still earning foreign exchange from selling refined fuel. The only thing now is that the costs are less because you no longer have a staff to pay at the refinery. You no longer have to find money for overhead costs for the refinery, for maintenance, for utilities, and everything else that you had to pay for. You no longer have that cost. So you're saving money. Now you just have to import the fuel, pay for the bunkering, pay for the shipping and the like, and then you sell to your same clients that that Petrotrin was selling to. That aspect of it hasn't changed. So when I see them posting this dotishness about it because the refinery shut down and the refinery was earning how much foreign exchange. You know what's unfortunate? The so-called men and women of letters who know this, sitting idly by and seeing this nonsense being published and wouldn't come and speak on the issue and inform the public. They sit down there because they have a vested interest in the public being fooled. And that is why you've had the outcome in the United States with respect to their election result. Because the propaganda seems to be spreading much faster and in a much better way than the truth. So when I see them posting that and I go in the comments and I keep asking, how was the refinery earning foreign exchange? because local oil production was not sufficient to provide enough feedstock to the refinery, one. And two, the type of crude that we have here was not really ideal for the refinery anyway. So we had to import oil to refine, to be able to create the diesel and the super and the premium and the other products, the byproducts, right, that we were producing to sell abroad. Who was the abroad? The Caribbean, North American market. When Petrotrin under Khaled Hassan Ali in 2014, again, I read the article, cut production throughput, right? The amount of refined fuels that they were producing from 180,000 barrels of oil per day to 120,000 barrels of oil per day. According to Khaled Hassan Ali, the man who was appointed by the People's Partnership to lead Petrotrin after Malcolm Jones and after Fitzroy Blackwood or whatever his name was, right? The company took the decision to reduce throughput by 1/3 in an attempt to avoid going out of business like two other refineries had done in the Caribbean. Why are you attempting to avoid going out of business if you're not facing the possibility or the specter of going out of business? And I keep asking that question. Why did he tell the Oil and Gas Journal that we did that? Instead of 180,000 barrels a day, we only refining 120,000. We reduced the amount of barrels that we importing to cut cost so that we could avoid going out of business. So in other words, he is saying, had we continued refining 180,000 barrels of oil per day and importing the amount of oil that we were importing per day at the prices that we were importing, the refinery would have gone out of business like the other two Caribbean refineries that were producing a hell of a lot more than Petrotrin. So they were earning more money because they were refining more barrels of oil per day, and yet still it couldn't be sustained and they had to shut down. But somehow the opposition wants you to believe, contrary to what Kevin Ramnarine said in his statement to the Senate in December of 2014, time to build up, not tear down Petrotrin, where he identified over 60 refineries that had been closed around the world in the previous 5 years. And he said Trinidad and Tobago and Petrotrin is not immune from this situation. What situation? The closure of the refinery. Which means that they were fully well aware that that was a possibility based on the circumstances at the time, with Petrotrin suffering losses every year to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. But they're not talking about that, you know. Mr. Ramnarine will never come and talk about that. And therefore, where is the media to remind Mr. Ramnarine of this statement that he made in the Senate in 2014 to ask him, why did you dedicate a whole paragraph to telling the public about refineries that had closed around the world in the previous 5 years? And he didn't just mention 60,000. No. He sort of break it down by region to tell you how many closed down in North America, and how many closed down in Europe, and how many closed down in the Caribbean. What was the significance of that? What message were you trying to send to the population of Trinidad and Tobago when you spoke to that issue? That in case the refinery shut down, understand that it had to be done because it's happening everywhere else around the world. So it's not just Trinidad and Tobago. So if you see we get to that point where we have no choice but to close the refinery, understand that it was because of a global situation. That refineries are closing all around the world, and therefore Petrotrin's reckoning finally reached. But they weren't willing to do it prior to 2015 because they figured that would have cost them the election. So you know what to do? Kick the can down the road. Kick the can down the road. And if we win in 2015, we could then try and shut it down afterwards. But even if we lose in 2020, we would have stolen enough money that if we lose the election, well, no biggie. We will go and serve 5 years in opposition, and then let the PNM have to clean up the mess, and then we will come back into office. Because why? Cleaning up the mess would mean that the government of the day has to take tough decisions that would impact negatively on the standard of living and the cost of living of the average citizen. Because in order to be able to clean up the mess, they would have to reduce subsidies, which means the citizens would have to pay more at the pump. But you know what? We're not going to get blamed for that. The people will hate the PNM for that because Rowley and they took the tough decision to do that, to do what we didn't want to do, what we were too coward to do because we love office and we don't want to take the tough decision. So what do? We continue behind the scenes to increase debt increased the debt on the exchequer account from 10 billion in overdraft to 33. And we know that the public, the only place you'll really see that information is in central bank bulletins and in the Auditor General's report. But between 2010 to 2015, apparently members of the public didn't know there was something called an Auditor General's report. But all of a sudden, they know about the Auditor General's report. But if you go back and you read 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016 report, you will see for yourself how every year the overdraft in the exchequer account kept going up by billions and billions and billions. Till on around 2016 or so, it prompted the then convener of the independent bench in the Senate, Danessa Mahabe, in a joint select committee to ask, how that happened? Why is the exchequer account in such a large overdraft? And Mr. Imbert had to tell him, well, you had to ask Kamala that, you know. Ask the PP. It happened under them. Danessa Mahabe is an economist. He understands the significance of that. But is that a conversation that is being had anywhere else? So the only time that was mentioned in the public domain was in that instance. And you will get it here. But that conversation isn't being had anywhere else. So they got off scotch-free with that. Ask them what they do with that money. That additional $23 billion that they spent, aside from the highest energy revenues in the country's history, according to Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, that they got from oil and gas. That $23 billion extra, what did you spend that on? Then asking that, you know what, oh, $2.6 billion missing. And Imbert can account for it. But have you ever asked Prasad-Bissessar to account for that $23 billion that has put the exchequer account in permanent overdraft? They didn't build anything close to what Mr. Manning built. We're talking about the waterfront, government campus, Napa, Sapa, the Prime Minister's residence and diplomatic center, the Chancery Lane complex. They built schools, they paved road, all of that. And the exchequer account wasn't in $33 billion in overdraft. Right? And this is from 2001 to 2010. But they come in for 5 years and increase it by $23 billion. And nobody asking them to explain where that money went or what it was spent on. The supporters not interested in that. They're interested in the $2.6 billion that they claim missing, that is not missing, that has been solved, resolved, and dealt with, save and except for their beloved Auditor General, who continues to drag out this issue to the very end, every nook and cranny that she could go into to try and drag out this issue, so that she could be held up as being this hero who defending the public purse. She's going down that road. Has a date been set yet for her to go to the central bank to check the electronic cash clearing system so that she could understand how the error took place? Because her auditors are satisfied with the explanation given by the Ministry of Finance, and they sign off on the accounts and they said, yes, we agree. There was a shortfall. The shortfall was as a result of this issue. But she's not satisfied with that. So she's going down to the wire. Has she? Has a date been set? Has she visited? If this is so important, and $2.6 billion missing, and the government can't account for it, where are we waiting on to go to the central bank? And if she has gone, why has that not been reported? Was she satisfied with what she saw if she went? We don't know. And unless and until that is cleared up, the fully done Saudi still pushing that head. But $2.6 billion missing. And where it gone? And the government thief it. How the hell do you thief $2.6 billion in 1 year's time? Right? If it was stolen, well, then the Auditor General need to tell us where it went, because there should be evidence of it. You don't just thief $2.6 billion just so. And it was only brought to the attention of the Auditor General by who? The Minister of Finance. So if the minister wanted to steal $2.6 billion, and the Auditor General would have come and audited the accounts, and she tell us she's satisfied with what she sees, that the government only earned $61 billion instead of 64. And she asked no question, and she was prepared to submit accounts that says the government earned only $61 billion. Then the minister could have thieved the $2.6 billion and say nothing, because this thorough audit didn't pick up on that error. How? I don't know. How do you miss that as an auditor? So it would have been very easy for Mr. Imbert, if he wanted to thief $2.6 billion, he could have done that. Why would you go and draw attention? If you want to thief $2.6 billion, why would you draw it to the Auditor General's attention that $2.6 billion missing, or there was a shortfall? So you put in the spotlight on your theft? But that making sense. That is the donkey logic that they put in out there. Imbert thief $2.6 billion, and then he went and tell the Auditor General, hey, you know, I thief $2.6 billion, but they didn't pick it up. So I just want to let you know. a thief 2.6 billion. So you need to go and check the accounts again, and you will see that 2.6 billion missing. And we have no account for it. Yeah, thief it. But I realize you didn't realize I thief it. So I just let you know I thief it. So go and check now, and you will see it's stolen. That is their donkey logic. That is their logic. But I wanted, which brings me to the final point I wanted to touch on before. Jaiwanti wins appeal, gets green light from Privy Council to pursue case against the state. And I see that the UNC, and they waste their time Sunday morning, waste their time press conference. That is what they're discussing today, right? The outcome of that Privy Council ruling and other things. And they're going to paint a picture, because I think one of the law lords questioned how come Mr. Imbut is not part of the investigation or the probe that was launched into the entire situation that led to the understatement of the revenues by 2.6 or $3.3 billion, right? So for those of us who might be, and I need to touch on this to help you all up, because I know they come up with their lies and the misinformation. So it says, embattled Auditor General Jaiwanti Ramdas has been given the green light to continue her lawsuit over a cabinet-appointed probe into the handling of a misrepresentation of revenue in the national accounts. 5 law lords of the Privy Council dismissed the appeal brought by Finance Minister Colin Burt and the cabinet. And the cabinet, all right, after hearing submissions from attorneys for the state at the UK Supreme Court building in London, England yesterday morning. They spent almost 2 hours quizzing Senior Counsel Douglas Menz over the merits of the appeal before they delivered an oral ruling after taking a short break. They did not solicit submissions from Ramdas's lawyers, led by Senior Counsel Anand Ramlogan, before giving their oral decision. UK Supreme Court Deputy President Lord Patrick Hodge, who chaired the appeal board, stated that he and his colleagues decided to immediately rule on the case based on its importance. He promised that written reasons will be provided at a later date. And the Court of Appeal's order stands, Hodge said, that is the local Court of Appeal. In the appeal, attorneys for Imbut and the cabinet were contending that the Court of Appeal got it wrong when it overturned a decision of High Court Judge Westman James to refuse Ramdas's leave to pursue her case over the constitutionality of the probe. In June, Justice James ruled that Section 1166 of the Constitution, which insulates the Auditor General from being under the direction and control of any other power or authority, could not apply to investigations such as the one ordered by the cabinet. And he also stated that Ramdas failed to prove bias by Imbut. Weeks later, Justice Peter Rajkumar, who delivered the appeal court's review of Justice James' decision, stated that the threshold for granting leave in such a case is low, and leave will therefore be granted because, as a matter of law, the low arguability threshold has been attained. He said as he and his colleagues remitted the case to be considered by another High Court judge. And while the probe continued as the appeal was being pursued, the investigative committee, led by retired Judge David Harris, agreed to hold off on all aspects related to her and her office until her legal challenge is resolved. And as Menz was presenting his submissions yesterday, he was repeatedly interrupted by Lady Ingrid Simler, who questioned whether there was an even-handed approach in the probe and whether Imbut's conduct would also be under consideration. Where is it? Right. So, just for the purpose of explanation, because I saw the 3 headlines, was it yesterday or the day before, basically talked about, sort of chastise and make it seem like Imbut lose a big case, and Imbut thing. I saw Israel Khan stating that Mr. Imbut should resign. Okay, let me get this. Right, that Minister Imbut should resign and the Attorney General should resign, because if he was the one who advised the cabinet to pursue the appeal, that he should also resign, and all manner of nonsense. So just to simplify it, as we know, the Minister of Finance and the cabinet would have ordered a probe to find out how this understatement of the country's revenues to the tune of $3.3 billion took place. What were the issues? What were the errors that took place? And the purpose of this probe is to identify the shortcomings, right? The inefficiencies in the system, so as to ensure it doesn't happen again. because we understand the significance of the correct reporting of the country's revenue position, especially when it deals with our credit rating from S&P and Moody's and Finch and all of these other entities, when we have to get reports from the IMF and so on. So it's important that the integrity of our reporting, the country's accounts, must be maintained. So the cabinet, through the Ministry of Finance, is saying, look, we need to get it to the bottom of this. We are not simply prepared to say, okay, this happened, the auditors came in, we provided them with the documentation, they are satisfied with what it is they read, what they saw, and therefore, okay, that's the end of that. We need to go a step further to conduct an investigation to determine how it happened, identify the flaws, and plug the gaps so it doesn't repeat itself. Part of that probe involves, based on the terms of reference, the Auditor General and her actions in this matter reaching where it is. Because in the earlies, the Minister of Finance would have told us about when the Ministry of Finance identified the problem, efforts were made on the part of senior Ministry of Finance officials, including the Permanent Secretary, who would have attempted to contact the Auditor General for guidance on the way forward. And those efforts to contact the Auditor General included telephone calls from the Permanent Secretary, as reported by the Minister, emails that were sent to the Auditor General directly, not her department, to her directly, some brief conversation, as the case may be, in which promises were made that return calls would be made and it didn't happen. So basically, the picture painted by Mr. Imbert was that there was some reluctance from very early on the part of the Auditor General herself to treat with this matter to have it resolved. And therefore, one needs to establish motive. Why was the Auditor General seemingly so reluctant to have this matter resolved prior to the presentation of her report by the deadline in April? So this must be investigated, right? The Auditor General is of the view that her actions in this matter, based on what the Constitution says, that she is above reproach and she is above any investigation. So they could investigate everything else. But you see, when it comes to my conduct in this matter, that's not up for discussion. Do not call me to ask me nothing. Leave my department out of it. Or you could go and talk to whoever you want in the Ministry of Finance. You could go and talk to whoever you want in the Board of Inland Revenue. Talk to whoever you want in the Central Bank. But do not come to my office. Do not call my office. Don't call me, right? Because we have no part to play in this. Leave us out of it. The government and the cabinet differs. They are saying that the Auditor General has questions to answer. Insofar as what has been reported with respect to her reluctance in the early days to have this matter treated with expeditiously prior to her submission of the first report to ensure that what she submitted was correct. She doesn't want that to be questioned or investigated, right? I am of the view that the Auditor General does in fact have questions to answer, because with all these claims that have been made by Mr. Imbert with respect to the Permanent Secretary sending emails directly to the Auditor General and she not responding to the emails, this is the second highest office holder in the ministry sending you an email, sending you calls, making calls, which were ignored, reportedly, WhatsApp or text messages, as the case may be, which were also ignored without proper explanation, which contributed to the matter being prolonged as it was. And up to now, the Auditor General has never denied any of those things that Mr. Imbert said. She has never denied that efforts were made to contact her and she didn't take the calls. She has never denied that emails were sent to her by the Permanent Secretary and she did not respond to those emails, right? All of these claims she has avoided. And questions need to be asked. If in fact this is true, why did you not respond to the emails? Why did you not take the calls? Why did you not return the calls? She does not want to have to answer these questions frontally. And so she has taken the cabinet to court, right, for judicial review of the decision to have her and her department serve as subjects of this probe. And she's saying, leave us out of it. Probe everybody else. Don't probe me. Don't probe my staff, right? Do what is all you have to do. So Privy Council simply said here what? We are of the view that based on our understanding of the Constitution and so on and what has been presented, the woman have a right to file for judicial review, right? Let the local courts decide whether or not she should be subject to the probe or not. she is, based on what is out there, based on the law, if she is of the view that she should be exempt from this probe, then let the local court decide. That's all the Privy Council said. No, they made no ruling to say, well, she should not be. They simply said, yes, let the judicial review proceed. Let it go back to the local court. And just as the appeal court would have assigned the case to a new judge, for this judge to hear and to determine, well, yes, Jaiwanti Ramdas should be a part of the probe, or no, she shouldn't be a part of the probe based on her installation and the installation of her office based on the constitution. Let the local court decide that. If the court decides that she should be a part of the probe, then of course we'll go through another round of appeal, because it will go from the High Court to the appeal court. And then if the appeal court finds, yes, she should be part of the probe, and she's not satisfied, she will then go to the Privy Council again, to the Privy Council to make a decision as to whether or not she should in fact be part of the probe. And if the Privy Council finds in her favor, well, that's the end of that there. The probe will continue, but Justice Harris will not be allowed to ask the Auditor General any questions. He will not be allowed to probe her department. He could question everybody else, the Minister of Finance, the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank, and the BIR, and anybody else. But he will not be able to ask the Auditor General any questions, any of her staff, any questions. If they find that, yes, she should be subject to the probe, well then, if the Privy Council says she has questions to answer, then she has to be subject to the probe, and she will have to frontally answer questions. Did you receive emails? Did you receive phone calls? Were attempts made to contact you when this matter was first discovered to seek your guidance on how they should proceed? Yes? Why did you not take the calls? Why did you not return the calls? Why did you not respond to the email messages? She will have to answer that. And then a determination could be made as to whether or not it was mischief, or if she had a genuine reason for not responding. That's what it is. So when they come with the misinformation and tell you, oh, Imbert lost the case and Imbert this and Imbert should resign, rubbish. Rubbish. Mr. Imbert is simply seeking to ensure that the Auditor General answers certain questions. Questions which the wider public should have. If you have no cocoa in the sun, yeah, rain. If you know that you did everything above board and that your conduct is above reproach in the handling of this matter, well, then bring on the probe, or they could come and ask me anything. I could defend all of my actions from day one till day whatever. Come, let Harris come and whoever else come, and let them interrogate me and interrogate my staff, because what we did was correct and we have nothing to hide. Why are you trying to avoid that? If you have nothing to hide, if your actions could withstand the most robust of scrutiny and is above reproach, why are you trying to hide behind the courts to avoid having to answer questions that the public has? Well, at least the right-thinking members of the public anyway. If you win the right. But there are certain things, I just say it. I am just saying. That's the easiest way for me to explain it to you all. Right? She is trying to avoid having to answer any questions with respect to her conduct in this whole fiasco. And why it is she continues to drag this issue. That even though Mr. Imbert would have indicated, and I was trying to find Mr. Imbert's submission to the parliament and where he would have gone through step by step. And I think it's very important for you all to hear that. Right? I can't remember when it would have been sometime in September, but I'm going through the parliament channel and I just can't seem to find it. Where he would have spoken about attempts where Ministry of Finance officials would have spoken to the Deputy Auditor General with respect to the matter. Why is this thing frozen? Right. The Deputy Auditor General, who would have given certain commitments to the Ministry of Finance that he would have spoken to the Auditor General, and that never happened. Even when they couldn't get on based on what Mr. Imbert is saying in the parliament, even when they would have gotten, why is this thing constantly sticking? Come on. That's now my folks on YouTube. I see this thing sticking. I realized last time that happened. Right. Okay, it seems to be. Yeah, I don't know why it's sticking. Right. So I was making the point that even when they couldn't get on to the Auditor General, they tried to get to her through the deputy. Because the Auditor General not taking calls, she not responding to emails. Well, call the deputy and maybe he could talk to her, and he said he would. And it didn't happen. There was no response from him either. So I don't know if he went and talked to her and she probably said, see me, I and this and that, right? Forget that. So he had nothing to report. And I'm going to continue to try and find that clip so I could play it so that you all can hear for yourself the lengths that the Ministry of Finance went to contact the Auditor General for guidance and couldn't get it. So we are where we are today. That while at the exit meeting on July 22nd, where the senior auditors from her department who would have gone back to the Ministry of Finance, audited all of the vouchers and everything, and they indicated to the ministry staff, we are satisfied. Yes, this explanation that you all have given us here for the 2.6 billion, we are satisfied based on the documents we've seen, the vouchers we've seen. Okay, we understand what caused the problem. We are satisfied with that. There's no money missing, no money was stolen. We are satisfied with this. And therefore, we conclude and we agree that the government actually, the revenue was 64 billion and not 61. So they did their thing, they wrap up, they went back to the department, they write whatever report, and they submit to the boss and say, well, okay, based on the documents we saw at the Ministry of Finance, the $2.6 billion has been explained, the 700 and something million dollars has also been explained. So the 3.3, we are satisfied that yes, unlike the first time when we went and we had only 7 days to audit, right? And the departments weren't able to provide us with the documentation to support the claim. The audit that we conducted over the last 3-4 months, right? April, May, June, July, we are satisfied with the documentation we received and the explanation given. She said, no, that's not good, or that good for all here. That's not good enough for me. I'm not going to accept that, because if I accept that, it means I have to go out there and admit that I was wrong. Admit that I was prepared to submit accounts that said the government only earned $61 billion, when in fact they earned 64. Admit that because of my reluctance to provide guidance on how they should proceed to fix this matter, it is very possible that we could have submitted a report that understated the government's revenues by over $3 billion. I'm not prepared to admit to that. So you know what? I'm going down to the wire. I want to go down Central Bank. They say this happened. I want to see how it happened. Show me, walk me through step by step. Take me into the room where this check clearing takes place. I want to talk to the people, the persons who conducted the transaction. All that. Yes, I want to have an interview with them so they could explain to me. So I'm not just going to take the word of the Central Bank governor. That's not enough. I want to talk to the staff themselves who conducted the transaction. And I want them to probably do a reenactment for me, word for word. I want them to wear the same clothes they were wearing on the day that this transaction took place, right? I want them to sit in the same position. This is the extent to which it appears she wants to go to drag this thing out. Just show me, do you remember what the conversation was you all were having that day? Show me exactly. I want a ball-by-ball replay. That's taking it to the ridiculous, but it just shows you the extent to which she's prepared to go. Because if you have the documentation that you would normally rely on, telling you this is what is what, you say, no, that's not good enough. I want to go down and see for myself. So like Doubting Thomas, yeah, you tell me Jesus thing, and yeah, okay, yeah, so I want to see, I'm going to put my finger in the wound too. Put my finger. And even in her case, even though she put her finger into the wound, that she's not satisfied. She wants to do an autopsy. She wants a blood sample to prove that that is Jesus. And that is not some charlatan. Yeah, that's what she wants. And then I want you to take me back to the tomb. And I want you to show me how it happened. And I want to see the angel who appeared and who removed the stone from in front of the tomb. I want to see, and I want to interview him too. And I want him to explain to me how it happened. A ball by ball. So Jesus needs to go back and he needs to put him back in the shroud and he needs to lie down in the tomb. And I want to see for myself exactly how it happened. Replay. Ball by ball. And I want to see exactly what he did when he left the tomb and where he went and who he talked to. Every step that he took, I want to retrace it before I could believe. That's the Auditor General. That's what she wants. She's not prepared to. And any other ridiculous thing that she could think about to substantiate, she wants that too. She might say, well, okay. Well, I need to know the role that the father played in this, so I need to talk to he too. Yeah? You have any video footage? Because even though I get my replay, I'm not so sure that's exactly what happened. You all have any video footage so I can see the actual event? That's the Auditor General. Right? Meanwhile, as she continues to drag out this foolishness, if it is that she's successful, the state had to find the money to pay that, to pay for her lawyers, to pay Ram Logan. He probably counting the money, the dollars that had to pelt out. Because she said she had to take loan and all kind of thing to pay Ram Logan. If he's so certain you are going to win, why he need you to pay him now? When he came in as Attorney General, he said that the state was owing him briefs for years and years and years. And he was prepared to wait. And all of a sudden, as he became Attorney General, and he is the head of the department that is responsible for paying briefs, all the briefs that was owed to him by the state over the years, all of a sudden, the state decided to pay him all. And he is the man in charge. Himself paid himself. So we're looking for another big payday. Right? What was the circumstances under which you chose Mr. Ram Logan as your attorney? It had nobody else to choose. What was your working relationship with Mr. Ram Logan prior to this whole incident? Ram Logan is the best attorney we have in the country. Why didn't take a PNM lawyer? PNM lawyer does represent UNC people too. Yeah? Because for them, all attorneys, they don't, when it comes to money, they don't, the money not political. You don't have PNM dollars and US and UNC dollars. It's the same currency and go in the same place. So they represented anybody. Yeah, my political allegiance is with the PNM. Whatever UNC person come and they need representation and they got the Duns I representing them. It doesn't change the fact that I support the PNM. But it is what it is. So I didn't choose Douglas Menz or some other lawyer who is perceived to be like Gilbert Peterson, who you all claim is a PNM attorney. Why didn't choose these guys just as prominent as Ram Logan? Why didn't choose one of them? 770. Joyda says she's above the law. She papers false. She said central bank is still waiting for the direct letter to do so. She must write the governor exactly. Based on what Mr. Imbert would have told us, that the governor, right? The governor would have asked, okay, fine, you want to come and see, no problem. You could come. But here what? You need to let us know, are you coming for yourself or are you going to delegate? Because remember, this is a sensitive thing. We don't let every and anybody come into this space because this is proprietary information coming in. So we need to know. Let us know who you're sending, what is their position and the like, and then we could decide. We don't want a low-level functionary here, right? We prefer if you come yourself, but if you want to send people, no problem. But let us know in advance who you're sending. They're still waiting for that. As far as I know. Still waiting for that. But the media and following up to find out, has a date been set? This is a serious issue. A serious issue. In addition to that, just 1 second, Jen. In addition to that, when she made the claim in her affidavit that the central bank rejected her request to meet for her to go through the system, this is an important issue. We're talking about the integrity of the country's revenue report, accounts. If you wrote to the central bank governor or the central bank requesting a meeting because you want to put your finger in the wound and you were denied that request, what did you do? Notwithstanding whatever riff or tiff you and the Minister of Finance has, in the execution of your duties as Auditor General, you have a responsibility to liaise with the Ministry of Finance. Even if you don't want to talk to him, but for yourself, have your deputy talk to him or talk to the permanent secretary and let them know, look, we need to get into central bank so that we can interrogate the system to verify what it is that you all are saying, and the central bank has denied us access. Could the minister intervene, use his good office to contact the central bank governor and let him know to let us come in, please, and inspect? Did you do that? If not, why not? All of this would be answered if she is subject to the probe. Justice Harris could ask her. So when the central bank told you no, what did you do? Did you, because you know the Minister of Finance and the Cabinet were waiting for this report, did you let any of them know, the Prime Minister know, the Minister of Finance know, the Attorney General know that you were trying to have a meeting with the central bank and you were denied? Did you draw that to their attention to seek their intervention in the matter? No, why not? But if she is exempt from the probe, we will never know that answer, because she will never be subject to that question, because probe will be taking place and no questions will be put to her. because the law says, or the court said, she is exempt from such a probe. That's all. It's just to ask her to answer these questions. That's all they want. We want answers to these questions. And she's saying she's not prepared to answer any questions. And the minister is saying she needs to answer these questions. And that is why we went all the way to the Privy Council, right? In the first instance, to save us the problem of having to go through the lower court. And then she argues her case before the lower court, and then the lower court says, yes, she's subject to the probe, and then they go and appeal, and then it goes to the Court of Appeal, and we keep dragging this thing out, and we want a conclusion to it. To avoid all of that, we're trying to get the court one time to declare that they're not going to allow judicial review, that she has to be subject to the probe. So now we've gone through the first stage. The court said, yes, she's entitled to judicial review. We had to start all over again now to go to the High Court. And if she loses at the High Court, then we have to go to the Appeal Court. And if she loses in the Appeal Court, we have to go to the Privy Council. And all of that to drag out. And time wasting. And the country's accounts in abeyance. And we're drawing closer and closer to the general election. And this nonsense about 2.6 billion missing and a thief is still out there without any successful resolution. We need to determine whether or not there is a sinister motive behind this. If it's politically motivated, I'm not saying that it is. But the probe would help us to understand that. So when Saddam Hussein and the Tanko and the rest of them come with in nonsense, I think they have a Monday night forum meeting tomorrow. So bet your bottom dollar they're going to talk about that. You already know what is what, right? So tell them they could miss you with that bull spit. Right. Let me get this here. Okay. 1 second. Hold there, Jen. Let me just connect this thing. Jenny.
Hi, Dominic.
Morning.
No, good evening. Good evening, Dominic. It went all those lockdowns to factor something.
You recovered from last night?
Huh?
You recovered from last night, from all that dancing last night?
Oh, that's small thing, man. Listen, Dominic, from what I was reading, I understand that they did make a request to go to the central bank. The central bank wrote back and said, just tell them, I'll pay it my way. Just tell them who it is coming and what exactly it is they're coming to do.
Right.
And Jaiwanti never got back to them.
Right.
So that is right. That you don't expect people want to go into the central bank with a very sensitive area to look over certain documents, and you're not telling them who actually coming. So then I could just walk in and say the Auditor General send me.
Yes.
And then go and plant all kind of thing inside the system.
Correct.
So she's the one stemming the process. And I will continue to say again, based on evidence that came out of the Auditor General office, there was a person of African descent who they would have refused to act as the Auditor General when the Auditor General was not in the country or on vacation. And they refused to allow him to act. He took the matter to the Equal Opportunity Commission based on, he said it was racism, as he was a person of African descent.
Yes. And
the Equal Opportunity Commission agreed with him that the reason why they didn't allow him to act is because he was a black man. He was an African man. And based on that judgment, he would have won money from the state. So I am asking, based on that, how did Jaiwanti get her position? Is she fully qualified for that position? Or did she get the position because she is a person of Indian descent? These are questions people don't like to ask, because the problem that's emanating from the Auditor General office is supposed to be an independent office we have never heard before. Auditor General get themselves entwined in politics. Under the former Auditor General in 2014, Ms. Sharon something, she would have written and sent a report to Parliament stating billions of dollars was being spent in ministries under the PP government that is undocumented for. They were just spending money and there was no records at all. She laid that in Parliament. It made the newspapers. How nobody ever talk about that? That is billions of dollars being spent with no documentation. And she, as the Auditor General, made a report citing that reason. But here we have now, where $2.6 billion was made in revenue. Everybody else, the Auditor General staff, she's senior officers, senior public officers, agreed that the error came from some system in the central bank when they were adding in whatever figures. Everybody agreed and said, yes, they understood what caused the problem and it was rectified at their end. She's the only person continue to refuse to accept what everybody else say. So like she brighter than everybody else and everybody else stupid. I am saying my opinion. When you look at the lawyers who take the case and Jaiwante, I would not be surprised if it was something manipulated. That is my opinion. I'll continue to say that. And I'll end by saying, to support the fact that you were considered thief, and that's what the Sharon Otley, I think that's her name, the Auditor General, have written about money being spent, billions being spent in ministries with no documentation, no accounting traces. Why I believe that to be true, when you listen to MSJ say that the PP government was a kleptocratic government, everybody thief. When we heard Jack Warner say that other political parties and government may have a little corruption here and there, but the UNC, PP, everybody corrupt. And the legacy they will leave in this country is a history of corruption. But you didn't hear nobody silent on that. But revenue, and as you quite rightly say, so they want to say Mr. Ember thief the money. Well, he's the most dotish thief I ever see. To thief the money, get away with thieving the money, and come and say, hey, Auditor, how you enter that money, girl? I thief that money, you know, and you enter it?
Yeah.
Well, he has to be one fool. So that I believe, based on that, logically, that she's the one at fault, and she don't want no investigation into her because she will be found wanted. Everybody have a blessing. And to Leo on the chat, I wonder if you get money to pay your rent, or if you finish your political degree, science thing you say you're doing favor, the fake one, and you see my pumpsite dread, it can wrap around you about 20 times your old dolls.
Thank you, Jen. Oh gosh. 7701763. Melka says 10-1 this Auditor General issue is a plan to drag the minister in the mud as part of their nasty political campaign. I believe they know the truth, but they want to put doubts in the population. Let me see here. Yeah, so true. Because they know they have the gullible, right? People like Leo, who no matter what evidence you give them, they're suffering from cognitive dissonance. Yeah, he too would have put his finger in the wound and say, nah, me believe that. That's a trick. How you do that? I ain't believe you, not Jesus. You lie. Hello, good afternoon.
Dominic.
Oh, Lord. Leave it there.
What's going on?
All is well. Let me hear what Bacchanal you comment.
Boys.
Yeah, let me hear your Bacchanal.
This is good evening. So, Dominic, all the heavy rollers was hanging with Dr. Rowley.
When? Last night?
Yeah.
I could only speak for when Dr. Rowley was by our tent. I can't speak for where he was for the rest of the night.
Tony was there?
I didn't see him. There are a lot of people who were there that I didn't see.
Telling Pastor Google how Tony Lee was talking about the new airport in Tobago.
What he said?
You know Tony Lee is the next one we get fixed.
He get fixed?
Yes.
Really?
Every time the footballers go abroad, Tony Lee gone. He called in Lotto. He get fixed.
Who fixed him?
Dr. Rowley.
Really?
So you know that, Dominic?
Really?
Tony Lee get fixed.
Okay. Well, you have information I don't, because I was in a meeting with Tony Lee on Wednesday of last week. Tony Lee and I spoke for almost an hour.
Tell you that?
No, he didn't tell me that. He told me a lot of things. He didn't tell me that. In fact, what he told me goes absolutely contrary to what you are saying. But if you know better than Tony Lee, no problem.
But he ain't gonna tell you that, Dominic.
Really? But he told me a lot of things, eh? He told me a lot of things.
So you know that? You notice that, Dominic?
Notice what?
Every time the footballers go abroad, Tony Lee gone.
And you are saying that Dr. Rowley pay for that?
He called in Lotto. But Dominic, when Dr. Rowley went and turned his son for Despa's Pantetia, Dr. Rowley stood up on the platform and said, according to Tony Lee, and I had to laugh, Dominic. According to Tony Lee.
According to Tony Lee, what?
Tony Lee get fixed.
According to Tony Lee, what?
Something Tony Lee say.
But I don't understand it. You again, man.
According to Tony Lee,
yeah, but
I had to laugh my head off.
Yeah, but leave it there. You get me half the story and chinksing with the rest. If you come up with that, you have to give me the whole thing. Don't tell me say according to Tony Lee. He could have said according to Tony Lee. Yesterday was yesterday and today's today. According to Tony Lee, you will know where Bali does grow. Maybe Tony Lee said, you can't do me that, man. Tell me exactly what Tony Lee said. What did Tony Lee say?
The line is Tony Lee get fixed.
Okay.
No excuse.
Really?
He get fixed.
So let me ask you, Andre, whenever Tony Lee goes, Andre Errol Baptiste goes with him too. Andre Errol Baptiste get fixed too?
Well, Tony Lee is a big announcer. He just go to announce.
So how does, but the man who does do the majority of the talking is Andre Errol Baptiste. How does he go? Who paying for him? Because he always goes with Tony Lee.
We go. I talk about Tony Lee.
No, well then you had to tell me, because you can't tell me.
I talk about Tony Lee.
Yeah, but how Tony Lee go in? I want to know, because if Tony Lee goes and they tell me he get fixed from Dr. Rowley, how does Andre Errol Baptiste go? And why can't Tony Lee go the same way as Andre Errol Baptiste, based on what you're saying?
Is the association paying for that?
Which association?
Oh my God!
Which association?
You just try to put my back against the wall.
No, if you come in here, Joe, I tell you, you can't be coming and give me half the story and chinksing with the rest.
Where the footballers go? Is the football association paying for that?
Which football association? Really?
Paying for that?
Really? I hope you have court closer, because I'm gonna send this to Tony Lee, and I will ask him if he can respond to this based on what you said. I will do that. In fact,
I'm going to court naked.
You what?
Dominic, I will leave it there.
All right. I hope you have court close and court money. Since you making that claim, all right. I'll send it to Darian and to John Benoit and ask them to speak with Tony Lee and ask Tony Lee if he could respond to this, please. The thing is, I don't know your government name, but anyway, Mr. Charles, call me back. No wonder why you always hiding your government name. But hopefully your sister will tell me. 7701763. Adult says Sunday is break day from Satan. Oh God. Adult says he was naked after exiting the padded room. Mr. Chance, go ahead. You can call me back. Clinton Edwards says time to get rid of that old man. Let me see. Who do we have here? Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sir, good afternoon.
Okay, I'm Dominic. As a listener, and this is my first call to your program.
Welcome.
I was just having a discussion last time and all of that. I think you clear up a whole lot of stuff on the program this morning concerning the money with the Auditor General.
Yes.
And the next thing we was having a discussion about the losses at the Petrotrin, right? It still has people believing that Petrotrin was making US dollars or whatever. And they're under the impression, I was telling the guy that I once heard from you talking about some oil refinery somewhere in India or something with amount of employees that they had.
The Jamnagar oil refinery.
Right, and compared to how much that we have in Trinidad, which we was overstaffed way more
Correct.
And I was trying to explain to this guy, and he wasn't able to understand what I was trying to tell him. So you clear up stuff this morning that I could tell the guy, well, look, you need to listen to Dominic.
Yes.
And my one other point I wanted to suggest, by listening to your program all the time, that have a lot of knowledge about the politics and about what is going on in Trinidad, like Mr. Chance, Brian, Rowley Jr., and Jenny. Well, so my suggestion is there any way that these guys and them could have like a platform? You could encourage them to have like a platform just like what you have.
Right.
So that we could hear more about more. They could come out with the facts and all of that. So we'll have more of it on social media, because I think social media playing a big part in the politics now, especially with the and everything that is going on. So we need more people on board now, with with more platform. So I don't know if you could discuss it with these guys, with them who come and give a really good, information and all. If you could encourage them to see if they can have a platform like what you have, Jenny have, Jude you have, and other people, because there's too much negative out there on the platform. Indeed. So just an idea from me. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, and I enjoy your program this morning.
Thank you so much.
Okay, brother. Bye.
All right. Right. So let me get Mr. Chance here. Mr. Chance, I had you on hold, and then you drop off. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Sorry.
Good evening, Don, my darling. How are you?
I am good. Hold 1 sec. Mr. Chance, I'm putting you on hold. Right. All right. So don't hang up, Mr. Chance. I have you on hold. Yes, caller, go ahead. Hello?
Yes, Dominic.
Yes, go ahead.
You know, amazing about UNC people? The truth is out there. But hate for everything PNN is demonic. What did the African people do to you? It is insecurity, or you are so full of self-hate you project. Every time the truth comes out, they make up 25 lies to hell and back. Broad is the way that leads to hell, but narrow is the road that leads to salvation. If hell is so bad, pack your bags and go. But leave the wealth you get behind here. From the first Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, to Mr. Rowley, leave your wealth. I am sick to death of these, Lord Jesus, put your hand, of these people. How do you live a life 24/7, 365? Is that normal? I need to breathe, so I be 24/7, 365. Between A and F have letters. Listen to the truth that's being told. You are destroying the nation you love. When you curse your land, you curse yourself, because your feet is the only thing that's on the earth. Everything in your house will pick up the curse, because it let there be and there was. He spoke. You are cursing your own self. And you also hate yourself. Your friend tells us she only 40%. Okay? She's a good government. I say, okay, if you get it, what about your children and your grand? You know, just told us IMF. So you only 20% no. What happens in the future? Suppose your children was pennywise or some goofy that don't have a pension plan. Won't they suffer? You can be so greedy. And eat, look like an elephant on steroids, such a greedy. Yes, I don't say don't like want it. I don't say don't want. But put the need of the nation you say you love. They find a man and they have money, right? They have money. Always come to borrow. You see, you're here? Like a horse deal. Every horse farm, sure. But how do you get long? Do you have a horse farm? Watch the groceries. People buying. Do you shoplift? Or are your aunts that in ninja the people good? Don't please explain the people again, eh? With that lady called Jairantu, whatever her name is. I was trying to call Jerome Cummington and Ron that PM Rowley said that he had offered after Sharon. And here is the Sharon. But told them, call the man properly. If you have facts of him being a rapist, call the man's name. Because you're playing cat and mouse. Be a man, grow up here, and call the man's name. Come on, God. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too. But they will never call name.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dominic.
Greetings, sir. I love this.
How are you? All right?
I am good. Can't complain.
Yeah, I know you survived. You had a good rest last night.
I did.
All that setting. Anyway, another very interesting discourse. But I would like you, because I have a few things, something to say, but I would like you probably at some point in time in the program. Because you know, the Forex issue, you're not hearing that discussing the maxi taxi and the taxi and the ordinary man. But if they feel that it's not going to impact on them, they feel that it's a big people thing. But I have heard you indicated that there will be an impact on people, the ordinary man, you know, based on the decision made by the government. So I would like you to spend 2 minutes or so, 3 minutes, after my contribution to tell the people what impact, whatever decision the government makes with respect to Forex, if they regulate it or as the IMF said, what impact will have on us, the ordinary people who living in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay? But this morning, all I want to do, very interesting discourse, we touch on quite a few areas, is to challenge the media to be more professional, to engage in more fact-checking, investigative reporting, and balanced reporting. And I'm going to put it out in a particular way. But before I do that, let me first of all, you know, I always use this forum to give some good news. I want to congratulate the students of Trinidad and Tobago who topped the Cape and the CSEC regional awards program. You know, whenever we do that, we are the top nation in the Caribbean when it's come to the Cape and the CSEC. And we must acknowledge that. There are times when we always believe if we didn't do that, we were bottom of the barrel. Everybody saying, look at me, look where we're going.
Yes.
So I'm saying that I want to congratulate them. Congratulate parents, teachers, and the Ministry of Education. Because Trinidad and Tobago has maintained its position in terms of Cape and CSEC. In fact, I need to say that there are 4 students who got top awards in Cape. Top awards in Cape, and TNT came first in 19 subjects in Cape. First in the entire region I'm talking about, all the Caribbean nations, right? And that is something that we must applaud and really support. 159 students from Trinidad and Tobago got awards in the CSEC. 159. So all the old talk and the bad talk about Trinidad and Tobago's education system and stuff, when you compare to the Caribbean, we are the top. We are the top. And the second thing I want to, I see the Minister of Finance signed a multilateral agreement to tackle tax evasion tax evasion and tax avoidance. That, as a citizen, that is important to me.
Yes.
Because you see, that is big talk. But when I drill it down, I recognize that if the minister is able to reduce tax evasion and prevent those people and then make sure that people pay the tax, there will be more revenue to develop goods and services for the people and the children and everybody. That's the point I make. I always believe that these things are important to us as the small people. But if the minister is able to make sure that there's no tax evasion, meaning that money goes to the treasury, it means that, and the agreement we signed is a multilateral agreement. In other words, if people are doing business any part of the world and they involved in that, that is how we're going to get. So I want to compliment the government on that, but that is part of the corruption issue. And remember, when it comes to the revenue authority, Professor Taylor made the point that we are losing between $5 and $10 billion through tax evasion. $5 and $10 billion is supposed to go to the treasury because of tax evasion. So when we signed this together with 140 countries, as a citizen, as an ordinary citizen, I am insisting in this country not going to the IMF. But I know that there are consequences for going to the IMF, and those consequences are dire and hard. Loss of jobs, loss of subsidy, loss of grants, and I've spoken about that already, and I need to repeat those things. So that is why this agreement to me is very important, because it's going to result in more money going to the treasury to run the country. And finally, I was making the point about the media, and I want to make this statement, as a citizen, I want to make this statement, and I want the people to listen well to my statement. My dear people, after a prolonged illness, and being involved and being placed in the media hospital for some time, I regret to announce the death of professional journalism, investigative journalism, fair and balanced reporting. You see? And I want to tell you that the cremation for all these noble ideas of journalism takes place on the shore of peace, South Song Road, at the mouth of the Goodwill River, on a date to be fixed. My dear people, cremation will indeed be a public affair, and there will be no need for anyone to climb any fence to get into the event. Everyone is invited, no flowers by request. Why have I said that? I think there is an absolute situation where there's a death. There's a death of balanced, fair and balanced reporting in the media. Investigative journalism, fact-checking, those things have died. And I'm suggesting that we better have a ceremony, cremation ceremony, because they have died. Why am I saying that? Because when I look at how the media is reporting, how the media is trying to manipulate our minds by reporting in a particular way, focusing on one area and letting another area die. I refer specifically to the matter involving the EMDD, as compared with the matter that you were talking about today. The reporting on the matter with the Auditor General is flaring in every news. It is the headline news, it is the headline item. Yes, it is important, but we know that the issue there is an error. It has nothing to do with corruption, thieving, bribery, cartel behavior, nothing like that is mentioned there. In fact, as I said before, those things happen, and it happened this year in the state of Missouri, where $718 billion there was an error, and they fixed it within the system. So I'm seeing there's some kind of political agenda, but that's not my focus. My focus is, why is the media only bringing forward that and not giving us the details of this matter that was supposed to be before the court on the 6th of November? Nothing at all. And they must be held responsible for that lack of information not coming to us. And why that information is very important to me? Because it involves $300 million. $300 million. I'm not saying the former minister of housing is guilty or not, but I'm saying that decision, if it goes in the favor of the state, will give us $300 million. You know why that is important to me as a citizen? that $300 million could go towards school feeding. And we pay every day. We provide 54,000 breakfasts and 79,000 lunches to our children in 800 schools. And when we work up that for the year, it's about $300 million. And I'm saying that if the matter goes in the favor of the state, that money that we are getting, that $200 million, can go towards providing that school feeding program for an entire year. I want people to understand the value of that, Every day, this government provides 54,000 breakfasts and 79,000 lunches to 800 schools in this country. And then they have to pay the caterers and so on and so on and so on. So the sum total of all of that is $200 million. And while you might be telling me, that's a big data, that's important. It's important because it costs $300 million to provide that lunch and breakfast every day for children per year. And as a citizen, that is what I'm looking at. The matter with respect to the Auditor General, there's an error in that. There's no bribery and cartel behavior. And let me close again with this, that this matter that involves the former housing minister, the word used by the judges is cartel behavior. And that as a citizen worries me. Cartel behavior means two or more persons colluding to thief. And that concerns me. It is a tax evasion, in a worst case of tax evasion. And that is where my interest is. So I'm challenging the media to be a little more balanced in their reporting, to do more fact-checking, to do more investigative journalism, so that the people of Trinidad and Tobago will be properly informed. Thank you very much for the time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Brian. Hello.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Yes, sir. Greetings.
Good afternoon to your listeners and callers. Dominic, there was a time in this country when, not too long ago, you could have used your debit card to make purchases outside. And once you had the money in your account,
right,
you could have taken your debit card and bought clothing and shoes and whatever you needed to buy. How I know this? Because I have a son who believed in that. That every piece of clothing he bought was using his debit card. Until the day came when that was stopped by the bank. And he came to me to ask me how to get a credit card. And I'm telling you, don't worry about that. There is trouble.
Right.
You're too young in the business. You have to build your collateral. You have to build your financial base in order to be able to have one of these credit cards. But that's for me, because he lacked the experience. And every time he goes on the internet, he believes whatever he sees that he wants to purchase, he buys it outside. As many Trinbagonians do. And this too affected, I'm almost certain. See, they are not bothered about the US dollar. All they know is that they have the money in their account, and if they feel that once they get the price and they want to purchase, they purchase.
Yes.
The conversion of the US dollars and the repayment is not an issue for them. It is an issue for who? The banks and the financial institutions. And many people don't understand that, because I always say the US dollar ain't coming out of my pocket. So I'm a business. Once I have my money on my account and I want to buy a jersey, a shirt, a piece of equipment or whatever,
yes,
and I can afford to do so, it's like going down High Street in San Fernando or Frederick Street in Port of Spain and purchasing whatever you want to purchase and going home. It's just that in this case, you're using your debit card, you're sitting down lying down on your bed and you're purchasing whatever you want to purchase, and wait to come and punch it off. And the banks, recognizing this, decided that, listen, if you want to purchase items abroad, you will no longer be able to use your debit card. You're going to have to use a credit card. And that stymied his ability to do what he was accustomed doing, not understanding what he was doing with our foreign exchange. Because many people don't understand that the foreign exchange does not only affect them personally, but the entire country, especially for those who have children abroad who need to pay for their tuition and their course of study in American dollars. Like, for example, I always keep talking about my friend who has a child going to Mona, Jamaica. The Jamaicans want the money in US dollars. They don't want EC, they don't want TNT, they don't even want Jamaica. They want US dollars. And that is a great difficulty for them every time, because every minute, whenever I call them, the wife is on the computer trying to figure out exactly how to doing the conversions and making every effort to pay the tuition fees. So people are not going to understand that at the end of the day, whilst it may not directly come out of our pockets, there's a cause for concern with respect to the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, because the government repeatedly says that, hey, our bills are paid in US dollars of international debt. That is how we have to pay our bills. And not only that, we have to ensure that a lot of people who need foreign exchange to purchase their goods in order to ensure that their business continues and provides for Trinidad and Tobago that they have to be provided for. But you see, the man in the street not going to understand that, the majority, I should say, of the man in the street not going to simply understand that they're saying, when I go to the bank, this little lousy $200 or $300 that I am getting is not good enough, and I know the bank house. But they just don't want to give me because I don't have business and I'm too small, but I need my money. So therefore, what do? They go underground. Hey, you have money? How much you have? How you selling it? And thereby, that institution is growing. And everybody knows it. The banks know it. Everybody knows it. So therefore, what happens now? Those who can afford to do like you have done and open foreign banking accounts, and not only now, a long time ago, and I don't want to say hoard money, but put aside large sums of money instead of bringing it back into Trinidad, and there is cause for concern. Those who can afford to do that. And there are those who say, you see, I'm going to keep my money abroad. Do what is necessary to keep it abroad. And that's the end. I know this is what happens in Trinidad. So I know whenever I have to go away, I have my foreign card. I can use that whenever I go. And the government now has to figure out a way around this in order to ensure that those who need the foreign exchange, right, the small and medium enterprises are able to access a particular amount of money. The Minister of Finance, before he went across to France, spoke about this, about putting aside a certain about $100 million US, I believe it is, for small and medium enterprises, so that they will not have any much difficulty as compared to the larger financial institutions that require large amounts of foreign exchange, that they will have an easier time. But you know, the UNT is making a big ball of fire out of this. You know, they just want to make it look as though the government don't want to give the small and medium enterprises money, and only want to give big business, and so on and so on and so on.
Right.
But big business was always there even between 2010 and 2015. So how were they getting their money? Not through the same means?
Correct.
So what is the issue here? You see, this is all in an effort to devalue the money in case to get into office. So the money hoarded abroad, when it comes back in larger amounts. To enrich themselves. That is what it's mainly about. It's not about the small and medium people. No, it's not. But they're going to use that and say, listen, those are the ones who suffer in, not the big business. But you know what? These same people going in the same big businesses, like Price Smart and Massey, to buy the groceries. Amazing. Really, really, really amazing. Dominic, this issue with Jayanti, but before I go to her, I want to talk about this former Minister of Housing. You see, and as Mr. Chance indicated a short while ago, journalism in this country has been totally bought out. We have said this on many occasions. They've been totally bought out. The Because every time I hear this former Minister of Housing speak, I wish I could ask him one question. Could you kindly explain to me where $789 million gone that was used, that was paid out, and not up to today? There's been no explanation, and not a brick or a mortar has been identified as being used for that particular purpose. And nobody in the media has asked that gentleman that question. Nobody. So over $750 million disappear, paid out, you know. Let me say it's just in there. It has been confirmed, paid out. And up to today, you don't know whether there's an investigation, whether any journalist has asked him a question, but the highlighting this man last week was giving out prizes to some school down in Orubuch, as though he is this great redeemer of children and schools and so on and so on and so on. When he has questions to answer before the court, he can't talk about these things. But they're showing up this man, the same day he's supposed to be answering questions before the court, showing up this man as a big utopia for children and so on and that kind of thing. And this is where journalism has gone. They have been bought out, and they don't give a damn about what we think or the questions that we have to ask. They're not business. They are the holders of the daily newspapers. They're the holders of the primetime television, and they don't give a damn about us, what the questions that we have to ask. But it's going to come a time when some of them may have to answer because they're going to have to come to ask for our vote. Some of them, of course, in certain areas whereby they don't have to worry about that. But there's those seats, those particular seats that they really and truly want in order to gain office and to gain power, they would have to go to those people. So I want to tell the people of St. Joseph, La Hoqueta, Alparo, Puna, and other areas where they believe they have a chance, and I don't believe they do. When they come before your door, ask them those questions. What about the $789 million that all your former housing minister cannot answer up to today? And don't tell me to ask him when I see him. I'm asking you because you are asking me for my vote. And you must tell me, what has happened to that money? What happened to the $880 million of LLCB that has gone missing? What about the life sport that was supposed to be $6 million and ballooned to $400 million? What's happening with that? Can you explain that to me where that money has gone? Did you write the check? Although you said you didn't do it, but you must have an idea where the money went. Otherwise, it would not have been left office. And you must answer those questions. These are some of the questions we have to ask these people, Dominic. Because this is not small money, this is big, big money. This is a lot of money. Because even when I told you that last week I was traveling, I listed a particular vehicle, and they still asking about the $2.6 billion, even though that issue has been settled, but the seat has just come out of the mouth at Jawanti. So in other words, as far as they are concerned, it's not settled yet. They don't want to believe what they have heard and understood from those who are working in the Auditor General's office. They don't care about that. They're not business. They will want to sell that as long as they believe it has legs. That is the hypocrisy and the lying and the lies that perpetuate from that particular party. That we have to be very woeful, be minded of, and be very careful, especially as they want to prolong it into 2025 because they know it is an election year. And they have nothing else, absolutely nothing else to hold on to. And therein lies the conundrum with what is happening going forward into 2025 and the general election. Because you see, apparently it worked in the United States, and they believe it's going to work in Trinidad and Tobago, but it will not. Because we are going to continue to ask the questions, the probing questions, and we'll wait for the answers. But we'll continue, if we don't get it today, we're going to ask it again tomorrow. And we'll continue down that line until I believe we can get the answers that we people deserve. understand? Otherwise, all that will happen if they gain office again in 2025, it'll just be worse than it was between 2010 and 2015. And we, as a people, have to be mindful of that and understand that there's a mission. And that mission is not only to vote, but to ask these probing questions when they come before our doors. What about that? Because if David Lee is going up again for point of view and he comes before my door, I'm going to ask him if he thinks it is good enough for me to vote for him when he's on a $1 million bail. Should I vote for you to go back into office so you could do the same thing again? Because if I do that, it means I am saying it's okay for you to continue to do what you did a couple of years ago. But that's how you're going to feel it. Hold on. Because people vote for me and them don't care about what happened with that issue, and therefore I could do it again. Because you know why? They voted for me once and they will do it again. And therein lies the problem. We have to attempt to stop that and educate the people and let them understand that no is no. We're a civil, mature society, and we know right from wrong. And therefore, we must let them know that we understand right from wrong, regardless of the propaganda that they will want to, and the spin they will want to put on things. We have to do that. Be mindful of it. Dominic, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Brian. Let me address Mr. Winston Bachelot. I don't know. Mr. Bachelot, it should be a test case because it seems, I don't know how his brain operates, because I have addressed this issue on numerous occasions, right? He says, Kola, we understand that, and I guess you're talking to Brian, but under Pandey, here he says, Manning and Kamala, so let me get this. He says, under Pandey, Manning, and Kamala, we had Forex like rain, but under Rowley, we have no vision, have messed up what we have, and we've taken for granted so many years. Let me read this again for you, Winston, right? Since you want to push propaganda. Apparently, I don't know, like the space between your ears is only an echo. So let me read this for you again, which I read the other day, Winston. But I know reading this for you is a waste of time. The 15th of May, 2014, right? This is more than a year before the general election of 2015. 15th of May, 2014, Winston. Let me challenge your claim that under Kamala, we had Forex like rain. This is a press release that was sent out by the Chamber of Commerce, right? A press release that was sent out to all media houses for publication. And it reads, to news editors for immediate release. I hope you're listening, Winston. Since you claiming under Kamala, you had Forex like rain. Chamber helps find solutions to US dollar foreign exchange shortage. The Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce believes that the time is now to collaborate on a solution for the perennial challenge, for the perennial challenge being experienced by the business community in obtaining US currency. This is the 14th of May, 2014, Winston. Who was the Prime Minister on the 14th of May, 2014? 2014. Since you claiming under Kamala it had Forex like rain, the refinery was up and running on the 14th of May, 2014. In September 2013, the Chamber spoke directly with some of our members who indicated that they were again experiencing a severe shortage of foreign exchange to meet their various companies' operational needs and payments to their suppliers. These concerns we brought to the attention of the governor of the central bank. A follow-up survey in 2014 has indicated that our business community is continuing to be plagued by the lack of available foreign exchange in US dollars in the local market. Winston Bachelot, this is the 14th of May, 2014. Go back and do your research and see who was the Prime Minister and which party was in government in Trinidad and Tobago on the 14th of May, 2014. I continue. In spite of the central bank's new system of allocation of US dollars to the authorized dealers, and despite the recent further injection of US $50 million into the local foreign exchange market, a third follow-up survey with our members has indicated that the situation has not improved. I hope you're listening, Winston, right? Because according to you, under Kamala, you had US Forex like rain. It continues. Some of our businesses are experiencing severe difficulties with respect to meeting their foreign exchange needs to pay suppliers for their imported goods, which can have a detrimental impact on their operations and viability of their businesses. Right? I continue. Says Catherine Kumar, the CEO of the chamber. Our members have also expressed some concern with the new arrangement for allocation to the authorized dealers. The private sector is now being advised to shop around for a foreign exchange. But this is not an efficient way for them to conduct their business. And even when this is done, their requirements are not being met. Additionally, the business purchaser ends up paying a higher rate for the US dollars. Given the current scenario, the Chamber will be hosting a meeting on June 6th at the Chamber building, which will bring together the business community, the president of the Bankers Association, and the governor of the central bank to allow direct conversation and understanding of each of the parties' roles in the distribution of US dollars. As always, the Chamber will promote a collaborative approach to provide meaningful recommendations for resolving this current situation in a sustainable manner. From the Marketing and Communications Department of the Chamber, the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce. Right, Winston? You understand that? The Chamber of Commerce put out a press release in 2014 complaining about a shortage of foreign exchange, complaining that their membership, the businesses, are not getting foreign exchange to pay their suppliers. I just read it for you. But don't take my word for it. You could go and Google it yourself, Winston. Type in foreign exchange crisis, Trinidad and Tobago 2014 or 2013, and you will see it for yourself. You will see it for yourself, Winston. But you keep coming here with your foolishness, talking about nonsense about you had Forex like rain under Kamala Persad-Bissessor. When? Let me see the other thing you posted. The refinery could have been open today, refining other countries' oil, and we would have been earning Forex from that oil. All right, let me explain something for you again, Winston, since I don't understand how your brain operates. Okay? You cannot refine other countries' oil, save and except if you're importing it, which is what we were doing, Winston. We were importing over 100,000 barrels of oil per day up until 2018, Winston. You could refine how much you want. You need to be able to sell the refined products. Who were we selling it to? You're saying Petrotrin was making so much Forex. How was the refinery making the Forex? You import oil because you don't have in Trinidad, you do not have enough to provide feedstock to the refinery. So you import 100,000 barrels of oil per day. You refine it. You have refined products, fuels. You have diesel. You have super. You have regular, which was still existing at that time. And you had premium. And then you had the other byproducts. Who was the refinery selling these products to? Because when they sell it in Trinidad, to the Trinidad gas stations paying for it in TT dollars. Who else was Petrotrin selling the refined products to be generating this foreign exchange? Tell me that. Please put it in the chat. Since you're bright, how were they earning foreign exchange? Put it in the chat for me now, Winston. Who were they selling it to? Who were they selling it to, Winston? How many more articles do you want me to read? I just told you, I read the oil and gas interview with this guy, Mr. Khaled Hassan Ali. I read it for you. But the man said that they had to reduce. So while you were advocating, we could have been importing other countries' oil. They cut the imports from 180,000. They reduced it to 120,000. Khaled Hassan Ali said, in an attempt to avoid going out of business. Why are you attempting things to avoid going out of business if you're not facing the possibility of going out of business? Do you think you will hear or see a press release from Ansa Makal The chairman of Answer McCall said, well, we decided we're going to close down Carib Brewery because we're trying to attempt to avoid going out of business. Well, why are you attempting to avoid going out of business? Is it that the company is facing the possibility there are internal challenges? Why you had to do that? You do not attempt to avoid going out of business unless you are facing the possibility of going out of business. Why is that so difficult for you to understand? Why are you employing strategies to avoid going out of business like two other refineries that were producing more oil, that were refining more oil than you in the Caribbean that went out of business? And you are telling us, well, we're trying to avoid the same thing happening at Petrotrin. So we need to do something to avoid that, because if we do nothing and we continue to operate as we're operating now, we will go out of business. So here's what we came up with. To avoid going out of business, we will cut throughput from 180,000 barrels per day to 120. So we're going to reduce the amount of oil that we import in, because the amount of Forex that we're spending on importing oil, it is having an impact on the company's bottom line. We're not making enough money from the refinery because we're paying $100 for a barrel of oil. But when we refine that barrel of oil, the fuel that we're getting from that one barrel, all we're getting back is, when we sell it, we're making $75. But we're purchasing oil, a barrel for $100. And then when we refine that barrel of oil to final products, we only getting $75. So we're losing $25 on every barrel. That ain't making sense. This is what they were saying. You all refuse to accept the facts, but continue to talk stupidness about the refinery was making so much foreign exchange and already shut down the refinery, and that is why the foreign exchange. But I just read for you, 2014, Kamala Prasad is Prime Minister. The Chamber of Commerce is complaining Forex shortage. The refinery was up and running. So where was all the Forex that the refinery was making in 2014 that businesses couldn't get? So much so that the Chamber of Commerce had to put out a press release sending it out for all and sundry to know that they were struggling to get foreign exchange. Where was the Forex that the refinery was earning in 2014? The communique I just read spoke about 2013. The problem existed in 2013 and it has not improved. Where was the Forex that the refinery was earning in 2013 that the Chamber of Commerce was complaining that they weren't getting foreign exchange for their membership? Where was it? The refinery was up and running in 13, 12, 14, 15. So why did the Chamber of Commerce put out that press release, Winston? Why did they put it out? If they weren't having problems, why did they convene a meeting of the central bank governor and the Minister of Finance so they could have a discussion to tell these officials the problems they were having to get US dollars and seeking a solution to, if the refinery was earning so much US and we had Forex like rain? Catherine Kumar is a mad woman. She just decided to put out send out a press release just so, complaining about Forex shortage. You for real? Ah, boy. Now he come in with the refinery had too much employees and it needed to be restructured. It was restructured. Listen. The refinery was dragging down the company. Kevin Ramnarine, in his statement in the Senate in 2014, said that the saving grace for the refinery was the upstream, the oil that they were selling. So the exploration and production arm of the company was making money. We're selling oil, we're making money. But then the profits that we're making off of that has to go into the refinery, and the losses in the refinery is eating up the profits from the exploration and production side. And if this continues in the way that it is, then the company will have to shut down, basically. So you tell them, well, but you all complaining, oh, they shut down the refinery and how much people lost their jobs. Now you come in to say that the refinery had too many employees and they needed to restructure. So what were you going to do with the excess employees? Send them home, right? But when it is this government did it, only have a problem with it. But you come in now to tell us the refinery had too many employees and they needed to restructure to reduce the number of employees. Complaining about the fencing communities and how many jobs were lost. Oh gosh, is us up with that now, man? Well, it can't be serious. Do your research and read instead of coming here every day and posting rubbish. The refinery was not making money. Look, the only refinery in Scotland is due to shut down in January of 2025. That refinery is over 100 years old. The only one in Scotland. You know what they're going to do? They're going to start importing fuel. The same thing that we're doing, Scotland is going to be doing in January. Winston. Since the refining business is so profitable, why is Scotland closing down their only refinery to start importing fuel, just like Trinidad and Tobago has been doing for the last how many years? Why? And the refining business booming? Jeez and ages, boy. You can't be serious. Let's see what's the time there. 1:53. All right, I could take a couple more calls, folks, because I had to jump off by about latest 2:15. So keep it tight, please. Yeah. Eric, let me hear you.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Is a good thing I have data before anyway.
A good thing.
After the listeners call us another segment of facts and stuff on things. Dominic, like that when start passing, like he get a good whiff for the fumes under the back dresser or it cannot come from any brain.
Yeah.
Because every Sunday you come in and you research it and you get giving information. You see, Dominic, let me tell you something, right? These fellas and them, they are accustomed with misinformation and propagandism. So by you talking that goes through one ear and jump up all the other ear, right? Because you sit down there and you went into detail, and he coming back again. You see, English and reading is the UNC biggest challenge in their party right now. They don't read and they can't spell. So whatever script that they give them to come and talk or to post, they will post it without any fact checking. You understand? I wonder if you forgot what the goodly old bat from Superior say when she was on the platform. You see, something you have to remind them, you know. Right? They wanted to value the $30. Like they forget. The same person who is saying, oh, and that tablet doesn't hear that. Themselves wanted to value the $30. And if they had done that, what would have been our position in this country? Our money can't spend nowhere else other than Trinidad and Tobago. Right? Winston Basilo. But anyway, I don't get what's with he right now. I saw in the papers today this old dinosaur who need to go back in ages, Ansel Roger, right? But a few of the oil field workers reached in front of Minister Gonzalez's house Friday night, which I find was a gross disrespect, right? When if as Dominic is really concerned with the concern on this side, you know? Yeah, exactly, yeah? Who the hell is Ansel Roger? Who is Ansel Roger to go in front of Minister's house Friday night? You don't know if the man have family time. You just go in front of the man's house and just want to protest what? Protest what? All of this, so you see, all of this so is a blasted disgrace. All of the trade union in this country. You understand? All you want to finance all your pockets. At the hell was all your supporters. Right? I just want the day election come and OWTU to vote that old dinosaur from OWTU, and the next one is renamed Leroy Baptiste. I thought this one supposed to be the PSC election. Like he hit me a camera, a cameramatic or you should for next match. But you see, Dominic, you see these people, all of them want to shift the goalposts with this Forex matter, and all happening, they're trying to shift the goalposts because of the implosion that is going on in the UNC right now, right? They're shifting the goalposts, so they want to use everything, either race card, manipulation, propaganda, and you name it. That is all they want to do right now. But people, we have to stay focused. We have to continue the trend. We have to apply pressure on these people because they want to use these things as a political tool to get into office. Right? The same general who cost out at Trinidad and Tobago, when the same general who come and want to have dealings with Dr. Roddy with the same refinery, God forbid that if they win, which they would not, the same general, they want to run debt to come back here to have the refinery done, and the same old bat, as a bunch of cronies, will want to have some dealing with general, but I telling them that will fail. The UNC is a disaster to this country. And before I go, the words of the late great Patrick Augustus Mervyn Manning, the Kamala Prasad today, who is presenting herself as an alternative prime minister for a second time around, is just not ready. Lacks the political skills, lacks the political acumen, lacks the political experience, and will be a disaster come 2025 and beyond if she's re-elected as prime minister in this country. Trinidad and Tobago, the information is out there. Just don't like Dominic, don't like Jenny, don't like Brian, Mr. Chan, Mr. Yates, Miss Gordon, Darian, John and John, Sharon, Google, and all these people who giving the information out, and always there's others. Well, all right, there's dating. Share the information. Encourage your family, your friends, everybody to get on board. This election coming here is not about friend and personality, you know. It's about who is going to govern the future of the energy sector in this country going forward, right? We did it in 2015. We did it in 2020. We can do it in 2025. Let us send a strong message to the United National Cronies or the unpatriotic, nefarious criminals we don't want in office. Pack up all the Jahazi bundle and ride into the sunset and put the Saparia bat on the banks of the Mosquito Creek and keep it for life out of the political arena. Dominic, good program as usual. And I must say, thanks to the organizers of the Bush Time. It was really, really attended and I really had a good time. Right? But Dominic, good program. Dr. listening.
Thank you, sir. So, let me see here. Right. So, 1 second, color. So, let me get this here. I could take 2 more calls quickly. Just now, let me get this here. Right. Just now, let me just get this here. Mr. Yates. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just one thing I want to say. People keep claiming that this country is run by a dictatorship.
Yes.
A dictatorship? This country is a dictatorship? Really? Look, listen. That fourth former Prime Minister or President of Myanmar, a woman must be in her 70s. Every time she makes a court appearance, they add on 3 years and never dealing with the substantive issue for which she has been in. They add 3 years every time she makes a court appearance. So she will die in jail. She will never come out. The same thing with the former cricketer Imran Khan in Pakistan. On a whim, on a suspicion of corruption, he's jailed indefinitely. And since he's now over 70, he will most probably end without his matter ever being heard. You want to know about dictatorship? Go to Myanmar and go to Pakistan to know about dictatorship. You will find out about dictatorship. And just in saying this, let me close by saying this. It is a shame beyond belief that Roger and those people could go and picket people's house, walk around the house. No family could come out without being assailed, without being attacked by Roger and the brigands. You surround the man's house. Nobody could come outside. Look, the man is a minister of government. The man is a minister of government. His welfare should be protected. The police should be outside of that man's house. It's one thing to pick it by the street corner if you want. Pick it by the corner of the street. You can't go and surround the man's house with your band of miscreants. Yeah, so nobody could come outside of Marvin Gonzalez's house. So they run in the country. They run in the ministry. They're in charge of his life. He can't say a word. He can't go outside. He can't come even in his yard. You want to know about dictatorship? That is dictatorship. And the police should be there, or should have been there, remove those people from the man's house. Remove them, put them at the corner of the street. This is a damn shame to people in this country, man. Who is Roger and all those people? They have no business surrounding the man's house. So the man is a common criminal then. Eh? Look, good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. All right, this is now final call. Yeah, 5 minutes. Let me just change this here. Give me 1 sec. Hold on. Let me get this here. Right. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Dominic, I don't know if you mentioned it while I was dialing to use on the mobile and dialing to get into the program, but Jwala, the former handpicked central bank governor, Jwala, would have exacerbated the problem very bad with our allocation that he changed. Because what he have done is he add more players onto it. And if there was some report or so where I think it's the English government noticed a lot of foreign currency leaving Trinidad and Tobago in suspicious ways. You know, that was happening around the time.
Yes.
Because I keep telling people that these EMBD with all these at $1 million, and when you're looking for the SIS man and he gone and went, it's not $30, then just go with, you know. They went with foreign dollars, they went with pounds, sterlings, and US. That's the kind of money they was leaving with. So when Jwala interfere with it, to me, it's like a calculated plan. That's why he went after that. I'm talking about making the US easy for people, because today I can say, I think on average, a bank will get like $14 million pumped into them when the government giving out the thing each, I think it's either each fortnight or so, whatever it is, they get that amount of money, but the money is being eaten away and blown. And to the argument of the oil refinery, and we have to continue, although it's getting so monotonous, but we always have to be saying it over and over. So the people they're fooling with, we could, debunk it to the people who listen, because let me tell you something. We also knew that what was happening is that the oil barrels were dropping. We was not finding new wells, and we was not getting more oil, drilling for more oil. It was dropping constantly. It started getting so bad that the refinery was not getting enough oil from Petrotrain, so they had to go on the international market to buy it at the world prices. So what that was causing is government was losing revenue and burning up the US dollars in a losing cause, because if you're investing and you're investing in US dollars, you have to calculate it back in US dollars that you're losing a lot of money. So it was bankrupting, not just Petrotrain being bankrupt, It was also bankrupting the country, because Petrotrain was depending on the government to subsidize that part of it for them. Because we also were subsidizing the gas and the fuel. Something had to be done. Although I don't like paying more for gas, who likes paying more for gas? But we can understand that if you're going to sing the country, I going on with it. So if I put the albatross, which was that refinery, on the necks of the state, the government, and they don't care who comes in government, it dies going around their neck. I going down with the government too, because I have wells again, I go in, I can't do like those who steal our money and go on and get up a plane and migrate. I cannot do that. Right? So people had to understand that it was really losing a lot of money because the money that has to be spent, and nobody speaks about the ship was waiting to deliver the oil to the refinery and saying, I'm not going to release the oil until I'm sure I get my money, something with the money. And the government had to scramble that. At the same time, the government was scrambling to pay public servants because it didn't have the cash in the treasury and was dependent. And people had to understand that on the revenues collected. That is how you peg a budget. You peg a budget on the revenues you intend to collect. So you have an average of what you collect and you see that, and then you will put on the thing and say, but I'm going to run a deficit budget, which, like for example, this budget is what for $40-something billion, right? And they're at about $9 billion or something. So the finance minister is estimated to spend above what was collected and those other things. Taxi intend to collect on all these things. And all these things is to put in case we have another meltdown in the economy, into world economy, or a pandemic. And that is why you use that, you put that, and you expect it to spend in case of anything, and also too for large projects. If you're going to venture into large projects like building hotels and all these other things, you need to have the funding to do it, because with the revenue collected from the budget, the government will allocate it like 8 million for health, 7 million for security, and 2 million for sports and culture. And you add it up, and when you add it up, you get a figure that is not people. The next thing, Dominic, people feel that there is money in the treasury sit down there. No. That is money that the government expected to be collected from you, from the oil sector, through the BP and all of them, and the business people. So when they collect all that money, that is how they're spending it. People have to understand that. A lot of people just don't understand these things, and you have to explain it to them at a level that they can understand. So the problem of the US currency was there, but it wasn't all that bad until Joala interfered with the allocation. He really sent it and exacerbated. That is why when the PNM government came, they stopped it. So people who was never used to get currency, all of a sudden they get anything US currency, foreign currency, and we don't know what they're doing with it. Because they're selling it to customers, and it's a legitimate customer, and they're going. Until, I say again, and I repeat it again, until the England and these places start to see money flying out of Trinidad and Tobago. And that money is not TT dollars, that money is US dollars. We don't make US dollars, we earn the US dollars. So the problem is that it sent it off so bad that the US, the little US that we earning is being built up. And the next thing I want to add to it, do you know that there's a lot of large business conglomerates, massive one who have the big sort of thing, example like Amasi or Ansamaka, like that and that thing. They have companies outside and they get paid in US dollars, but they have the US account. But they also have businesses in Trinidad and Tobago. They have businesses that importing. A lot of business importing. They just import. They using a lot of US currency to import. But you know what they do? They join the line to the bank together. They don't go to the head office together. They have to go and if for some reason it wasn't a problem, then they'll get a loan from the board, the parent company who own them, and they had to pay it back. Same as the thing, that's how it operates. And a lot of business people was buying credit card, going and getting credit card and using it to do business and pay the bills. All that has added up with the bank. So you go in and get your personal Visa or Platinum credit card, loaded with US cash, and that's where you're using to pay to buy your goods and all these things. So it started to get really out there, and the government has to do something to plug it. And Trinidad and Tobago want to come on board to assist, and especially the large conglomerates and them. And all these millionaires, we have billionaires and millionaires who have a lot of money outside it. They can help this situation, that bringing back some of the money here. But I mean, I can't get them wrong. If when you put it in the bank, it's suck up. And we too, myself, I have to start looking at cutting down on the spending on the heavy little crap you see on Amazon or eBay and all these other things that you run and buy. Some of the things you buy, you use it, you enjoy it for about 2 months, and after that, it's here, they don't care about it, and they think we gotta cut back until things start to ease up, and we can save up a certain amount, and then we can control our spending of the US dollar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Right, so that was our last call for today. So let me just address one issue before, for the benefit again of Mr. Bachelor. He says, facts are that the UNC left 12 billion Forex. Those are the facts, and you can't put a spin on that. I love when you all challenge me, right? Winston, you see, unlike you, I don't run on propaganda and will talk. Reading here from the central bank website. Go and check it for yourself. Right? Let me help you, Winston. Foreign reserves, annual, 2001. Remember what happened in 2001? December of 2001? Mr. Robinson appointed Patrick Manning as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago in December of 2001. Let me help you, Winston. Net official foreign reserves, 2001, 1,725,000,000. 2001. Let me tell you what it was when Mr. Manning left office in 2010. Let me help you out. 2010, foreign reserves, 9,181,000,000 US dollars. 2010. So Mr. Manning increased the foreign reserves, Mr. Bachelor, by over 8 billion US between 2001 and 2010. Let me help you with what it was. 2015, net official foreign reserves, right? And this here is from central bank. So you could go on the central bank website and see it. This is where I'm reading it from. Net foreign reserves, right? Listen to this carefully, Winston. 2014, net official reserves, foreign reserves, 11,497,000,000 in 2014. 2015, okay? 9 billion, this is up to September 2015. 9,933,000,000, Winston. 9,933,000,000,000. This is the central bank website. So if you have a problem with these figures, take it up with the central bank, right? They are the ones who will know because they manage the foreign exchange reserves. It is stored with them. So they should know better than anybody else. And according to their website, 2015, September, foreign reserves, 9,933,000,000. Kamala Prasad Bisasa demitted office when? On the 7th of September. Well, the 9th of September, because Dr. Rowley was sworn in at 1 o'clock on the 9th of September, 2015. So contrary to your 12 billion, I don't know where you get that from. Propaganda and old talk, chop and talk. That's where you all get your information from. But I go into the credible sources, the central bank website. 9,933,000,000, or the equivalent 11.2 months of import cover. Okay, Winston? So explain to me why between 2014, September 2014 and September 2015, the country's foreign reserves fell by 1.5 billion US dollars. From September 2014 to September 2015, who was the Prime Minister? Kamala Prasad Bisasa, right? So, you see what it was when Mr. Manning left? The figure that I gave you? 9-point-something billion. When Kamala left, 9.93. So she added precious little or nothing to the country's foreign reserves from when Mr. Manning left it. 5 years later. Same place Mr. Manning left it, same place it was when she demitted office according to central bank figures. No improvement. So when you want to come and talk nonsense about Kamala left and UNC left, $12 billion. They left nothing. Mr. Manning left that, and there was no improvement according to these figures. None. After 5 years of the highest energy revenues in the country's history, 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, and the same place Manning leave it is the same place it was when Kamala left. Central bank says so. Right? So talk that talk for me now. So no improvement. All that US you earn from highest energy revenues, over $100 per barrel for oil, and you leave it the same place you met it when you came in 2015? Winston? Talk about that. You want to know why it is the foreign reserves is where it is today? Because the government of Keith Rowley took a decision that they would use the country's foreign reserves to prop up the exchange rate, to provide supply. Since everybody want to spend US, everybody who have a credit card feel they need to use the credit card to shop outside. Everybody figure they need to jump on a plane and go abroad and spend money outside. Everybody who have an idea to start a business feel that the easiest business to open and run is a retail business. So import stuff at one price, mark it up, and then sell it at a higher price and make a profit. Hardly anybody who opening new businesses thinking about, well, let me go into manufacturing and let me try and export some stuff so I can earn foreign exchange. Instead of me having to run to the bank every Monday morning to get foreign exchange, to bring in stuff, to stock my store and my shelf so that people could come and buy it in TT dollars and make a TT dollar profit, no foreign exchange, and then I run back to the bank again to ask for more foreign exchange so I could spend it and buy more stuff, bring in more stuff, put it on my shelf, sell it in TT dollars, make TT dollar profit, run back to the bank again. So I'm contributing nothing to the foreign exchange. The government say, here what? We have all this foreign exchange here in reserves. We have two choices. We could sit down on it, leave it in the bank, continue to try and build on it, and supply and provide no supply to the commercial banks and tell the banks fight up our wall. We preserving this, we're not touching this here, right? Because we like seeing this high foreign reserves. So try and see if you could convince the energy companies to sell you all more US. Try and see what you all could do to get people to bring in US. Maybe you offer a little higher rate or something, and to encourage people to come with whatever little US, they probably travel abroad and they get some US from a family member, they come back home and they want to change it. Encourage them to do that, but we're not touching the foreign reserves. You know what I would have done? Today, the exchange rate would have been about 10 or more TT dollars for $1 US. Because demand outstripping supply in an extreme way. The economy would have been in a mess. You think you have a foreign exchange shortage now? Imagine if the government had said, we're not touching the foreign reserves. We are not going to engage in a dirty float or a managed float by propping up the exchange rate, by pumping foreign exchange US dollars from the foreign reserves into the banking sector to meet the demands or to satisfy supply. We're not doing that, which is what the UNC has basically said in their manifesto, that they are not going to encourage or they're not going to continue the current dirty managed float, which is what it is called. They are going to allow the exchange rate to increase based on a crawling band, they say. But they could talk that talk 5 years ago. But the demand for US today is more significant than it was 5 years ago. So if they come into office next year with the same policy and they figure that it is going to increase on a crawling band, they are sorely mistaken. In no time whatsoever, that exchange rate is going to skyrocket. But they plan to sit down on the Forex. Yeah, we just sit down in the central bank and collect dust and cobweb so that we could report every year, look, we restored. Rowley left it at 5-point-something billion and we were able to take it back to the heights of 11 and 12 billion and 13 billion. Don't mind for the 5 years, 3 months and 14 days that you were there. Highest energy revenues in the country's history, and you didn't do that. You left it the same place you met it under Patrick Manning. Thank God Manning took it from 1.7 to 9.9-point-something. Right? Even though he built all them things, and he didn't take the exchequer account in permanent overdraft by 23 billion. But that is what you call proper management. And after you pay a man 11.625 million to leave his work in the bank to become the Minister of Finance, and he was not able to improve the country's foreign exchange reserves. But you pay him 11.6 million to lead the bank, and then he was receiving a salary every month plus perks to be the Minister of Finance. That is what you call good governance. That is how you're supposed to manage the country's foreign exchange. And Winston, It's on the central bank website. Go and see it. Don't take my word for it. Go and see it. So when you want to come here with your notice, talk about UNC need 12 billion, man, where you get that from? Maybe in UNC land. Not in reality. Not in Trinidad and Tobago. That didn't happen. That did not happen, Winston. So when you all want to come with your notice, talk about the foreign exchange and the foreign exchange. Understand the dynamics, as the previous caller said. When Jawala Rambaran decided to interfere with the distribution methodology and give licenses to Tom, Dick, Harry, Jenny, and Jane, and then telling as I read in the press release from the Chamber of Commerce, telling companies, well, here what shop around now. You went by the bank and the bank tell you could only get 10,000. Well, we gave out licenses to about 20 other people. Go and see if they have any. What we gonna tell you? What we gonna do? Try and see if they have. Who are the other people? Figure it out now. Do your research. Where should I look? Try and figure it out. So they give out license, but people don't know who. So who are going by? So if the 4 banks, because the banks now getting less, because what is being put into the system now has to be shared amongst more people. So of course, when I go to the bank, I will get less than accustomed getting, because the bank not getting as much as they were getting before, because they now have to share it with 15 or 20 other people that nobody knows about, except for the friends and family and financiers. And Winston? And so you heard Katrin Kumar say that didn't make no sense. It didn't help the situation. It worsened it. As the caller mentioned. Let me talk about that. Talk about that. So if you prefer for the government to sit down on the foreign exchange, the reserves, and just build it up, and tell the central bank don't put nothing or put precious little into the system, and let it fight up and however they will, what do you think will happen? You're going to see shortages on the grocery shelves, shortages at all the different stores, and then eventually the exchange rate is going to increase, because if we don't have it, we have to sell what we have to the highest bidder. And then you have the IMF and whoever come in to tell you remove the restrictions. In Barbados, you know they have foreign exchange controls. Go and do your research. As I suggested, you're entitled to 20,000, the US equivalent of 20,000 Bajan for the year, inclusive of what is on your credit card. 20,000 Bajan, wherever US that works out to, that is the limit you're entitled to. And you have to put in a request before. All right? We don't have such restrictions here. And it doesn't matter how much US the government continues to pump into the system, it will never be enough. Because the more, there was a time not so long ago, just a few years ago, you could have walked into an RBC ATM. They had US dollar ATM machines, you push in your card and take out how much you want. And people take advantage of that. So you figure if the government continues to pump more, what do you think going to happen? People will take it and they will send it abroad, capital flight. Because you know why? The US account in Trinidad, the interest rate that the bank's paying is next to nothing. When they look at the US dollar denominated investments that the bank have, the interest rate are really making sense. It's fluctuating up and down and up and down. So people prefer, well, you know, it's better put our money in a US account, yes, because the US account more stable and I get more interest outside. So why should I leave my US dollars in Trinidad, in US dollar investments in Trinidad, when I get a better return outside? And the more I could get is the more I will take, because I have plenty TT dollars, and if the bank is willing to sell me US, well, I'm happy to convert that to US dollars and send it abroad and keep taking. As fast as it comes in the system, I taking it out and I send it to the US. Take it out and send it to the US. And the people who want it for legitimate transactions to purchase stuff can't get it. So these people are contributing to the shortage, but we're not holding them accountable. And then you come in here to talk this nonsense. So whoever tell you about that 12 billion, get that. I don't know where you're getting that from. So you're saying it was 9.93 US in 2015, and when I do the maths, it was far higher still under the UNC. How could it be higher under the UNC? It's the same thing they met in 2010. I just told you the reason why it fell under the Rowley administration is because the government is drawing it down to provide supply. If you have a reduction in supply from the energy sector, which is where we get most of it, and you have people demanding hundreds of millions of US dollars, the government is saying to the central bank, sell the foreign exchange that you have in the reserves, sell it to the commercial banks so that they can provide the supply and make up the shortfall from what they're no longer getting from the energy companies. How is that so difficult to understand? Should Dr. Rowley have come in and say, we meet 9 billion, we're not touching that 9 billion. But what we're getting from the energy companies, which is what we use to supply the wider system, has reduced because there's less oil, less gas, so we're not collecting as much revenues, taxes and royalties in US dollars to put into the system. So where are we to get the US? Well, we have this pile of reserves and to get 9 billion from Kamala, but that Kamala left, that she inherited from Manning, we're not touching that, leave that there. Don't touch that. So then how are we making up the shortfall, sir? That's not my problem. Tell the bank, find it somehow. Don't touch the reserves. Because people like Winston Bachelor want to continue to see the foreign reserves at 9.93. So leave it at 9.93, don't touch it. But so the population need it, they need some, I tell earlier, don't touch that. Leave it there. The bank problem, if the citizens can't get it, tell them stop spending US dollars. It's not my problem, I don't care how they get it. Leave the reserves. That's what Winston wanted. That's what he wanted. That's what Dr. Rowley should have said. Don't touch the reserves. Let them find it how they could. Rather than the government is using the reserves to prop up the exchange rate. But they should stop. But anyway, Kamala said that's what she will do. Put her back there next year. And she will not be used drawing down on the country's foreign reserves to provide any supply. And you'll fight up how you get it. And when you can't get it, and the exchange rate go up to 10 and 11 and 12 TT to 1. When imports more expensive and you go to the grocery, and all you're complaining about the cost of the price of bread now, when it's $30-something for a loaf of bread. Don't complain, Winston. Applaud Kamala for leaving the foreign exchange reserves in the central bank rather than putting it into the system to maintain the exchange rate. Don't complain. When everything that you're buying, the price going up when you're going in the grocery, right? And you go into the grocery, you don't even need to pick up a basket because everything that you could afford could fit in 2 hands. Don't complain. Applaud Kamala for maintaining the country's foreign reserves and not putting it into the system to help the exchange rate. Folks, I can't explain it anymore to this man, right? I'm just not able. I just not. Winston Jones says, change his name. Yes, he needs to change his name, Winston. Embarrassing you. Oh, gosh, boy. I'm sure if I go and check my blood pressure now it's high. I ain't able. Dion Lewis says, next year belongs to God alone. Indeed. Robert Lewis says, we need international realities of the dollarization in the process of the US dollar. Countries are trading in their own currencies for business. US dollar may no longer be the world's reserve currency. Indeed, to be dependent on in a few years to come. Indeed, Winston. Dollarization is another thing that we need to discuss. Yeah, but I just don't have the patience with Winston again for today. Roxanne says, I have to go over to Sir John for my gospel hours. I have to share the love. Understood, Roxanne. I busted out too. So, folks, we will chat again on Tuesday morning, God's willing, 6:30. There will be no live on Thursday, so I'm letting you all know up front because Thursday I'm heading over to Tobago. Yeah, so I'll be there until Friday evening. So, yeah. I have to have an early flight, so I won't be able to do the live on Thursday. So Tuesday, and then again, God's willing, on Sunday. Right? So Tuesday morning. Yes, Roxanne. unless you all want me to, unless I could try to do it Friday morning. But as I said, I don't usually like to encroach on Sharon's time, because I know some of you all are in between. But if I can manage it, we'll see how Friday morning works. But definitely Tuesday, not possible, because the time I'd normally start is I'd probably be on a plane. So we'll chat on Tuesday morning, folks. Winston, same to you. Anne-Marie Montique, sorry. Enjoy the rest of your evening as well. Joycelyn Small-White, Ruth Runton. No problem, Ruth. Always a pleasure. Christina Lezama Kamau. Same to you. Who else is there? Jennifer Nathan, Celestine, Allen, Clinton Edwards. Clinton says, Kamala, give him wet rice or sweet rice, whatever it is, call it. That's why he's so dotish. Gail Rambly, thank you so much, dear Lewis. Marissa Guevara Diaz, hi Marissa, 29 Super C, and Roxanne, all of you guys. We'll chat on Tuesday.